Chapter 778. Just as Feng Yun was scolding himself for not bringing a band with him, a black sound suddenly rang out. The sound was so loud that it actually overpowered the sound of the drums. Yi Hua stood up with a smile on his face. Battleship. This is a bit interesting. I haven't seen this thing for a long time, I really miss it a bit. Mu Ran, who was at the side, also looked towards the sky with a taut face. The people from Tianliang sector here. Feng Yun raised his head and stared at the dark sky, his brows slightly wrinkled. This seems to be the sound of the battleship's horn. General. This should be the people from Tianliang sect. Ding Wenba, who was at the back, reminded softly. Feng Yun really didn't expect that the people from Tianliang sect would also want to get a share of the loot. Right now I am still relatively weak. I cannot let Wuliang sect discover anything. But to Xiaoyu, the more people the better, this way it will be more stable. Suddenly, 10 enormous battleships surged down from the clouds. As if they had broken through the clouds, they brought along traces of clouds and mist. This kind of scene was very spectacular and it was very ostentatious. The 10 battleships were arranged neatly, just like an enormous tortoise shell in the sky. The flag of Wuliang sect was hung on the poles, and there seemed to be a lot of people standing on the deck. They were densely packed. At the start, these people were very excited, but after seeing the scene they became astonished. From the sky one could have a good view of Wushu Empire. The first feeling. The second feeling. The second feeling. The big. The third feeling. The long. Is this Wushu Empire? Is this still an empire? This is simply even grander than my Tianliang sect. Looking at this dazzling city and that towering palace, this is undoubtedly showing off my heroism. Especially that city wall. It is so tall, when people stand below it they are just like ants. Ma Ji and Fang Ming, who were leading the group, were a bit astonished. Hearing Yun Ting say it was one thing, but seeing it for themselves was another thing. At the start they even felt that Yun Ting was exaggerating a bit, but looking at it now they realized that Yun Ting was not exaggerating at all. Furthermore, Yun Ting even said it tactfully, fearing that he would hurt Tianliang sect's morale. Elder Fang, this Wushu Empire is not ordinary. Ma Ji lightly stroked his beard and said faintly while staring at the man who was wearing an emperor robe on the city wall. Fang Meiying nodded silently. Elder Ma, we should be more cautious. Mu Ran is still in their hands. Yes, but it's a good thing that the Duchy of Gudar is here. Ma Ji smirked. Those people could be used as cannon fodder. Fang Meiying knew what Ma Ji meant, so she silently agreed. If it was really a trap, the ones who would die would be those ordinary people. Her own sect's disciples wouldn't have to die. Come down. Fang Meiying said indifferently. She did not choose to enter through the air because she had a bad premonition. If they attacked from the sky they would be too densely packed. As long as they destroyed 10 of the battle arcs they would be finished. Yi Hua looked at the battleship that was slowly descending, and a dense mass of people walked down from the battleship. The number of people walking down from the battleship was double that of the people in Gouda Principality. Looking at the battleship from the top of the city wall, the scene was indeed a bit spectacular. Do you recognize all of these people? Yi Hua asked curiously. Mu Ran nodded and said, I know them all. Introduce them to me. Mu Ran exhaled deeply. The general of Gouda Principality is 4th Prince Feng Yun. Feng Yun, what do you think of this person? Feng Yun is the most outstanding among the princes. And the king also has the intention to give the position of crown prince to Feng Yun. Mu Ran said respectfully. I understand now, this Feng Yun wants to come back and become the crown prince. His idea is not bad, just that he doesn't use his brain. Yi Hua lightly leaned on the city wall and looked at Mu Ran with a playful expression. Mu Ran remained silent. This emperor is so smart, he guessed it so quickly. What about the people from Tianliang sect? Mu Ran said gravely. The people from Tianliang sect are my teacher, Fang Ming, and Ma Ji, Elder Ma. Since your teacher is here, you have to persuade them, if not, your teacher is going to fall here today. I'm not joking with you. Yi Hua said indifferently while looking down at the army that was not far away. With 300,000 people lined up, the scene is truly grand. However, it is useless to have so many people, I can deal with them with just a snap of my fingers. However, that is too easy for you all. Without any fluctuations in your hearts, how can you all display despair and fear? Hearing what Yi Hua said, Mu Ran was a little unconvinced and said lightly, My teacher is a rank 1 Do Huang, and Elder Ma is also at the peak of the King realm, he is also just a step away from becoming a Do Huang. Alright, stop explaining, in my eyes they are all the same salted fish. Yi Hua said indifferently. Mu Ran pursed her lips. This is the most boastful emperor that I have ever seen. On the other side, Feng Yun jumped down from his horse and obediently came to the front of Tianliang Sect's army. I am Gouda Principality's fourth Prince Feng Yun. Greetings to the two seniors. After Feng Yun finished speaking, he cupped his hands. He was very low-key and did not have the airs of a prince at all. However, in his heart he secretly swore, I will return this scene to you all sooner or later. I, Feng Yun, am a transmigrator with a system. The heavens have destined that I will become popular in the entire Kangluo continent. Ma Ji took a look at Feng Yun then ignored him. On the other hand, Feng Meiying nodded her head towards Feng Yun. Gouda Principality sure is considerate. Of course, of course. Feng Yun lowered his head and replied while cursing in his heart. Afterward, Feng Yun felt awkward. The other party seemed to have stopped talking and I have been lowering my head like this. It seems like I am a joke. Furthermore, I am doing this in front of 300,000 soldiers. I have truly lost all my face. Elder Ma, could it be that this is a trap? As a woman, Feng Meiying was rather vigilant. Ma Ji didn't act impulsively and said to Feng Yun, go and get someone to pass the message. Feng Yun didn't dare to say anything and directly obeyed the order. In his heart he wished that he could get rid of these two fellows. After returning to his own camp, Feng Yun immediately called Xiayu. General, what's the matter? Xiayu shouted out respectfully. It's nothing big, I just want you to go and pass the message. Feng Yun said faintly and his expression wasn't very good. Ah. Xiayu cried out in surprise. Isn't this a big matter? This is equivalent to sending someone to die. Feng Yun's gaze turned cold. What? Are you thinking of disobeying a military order? I don't dare. Xiayu hurriedly lowered his head and replied. Disobeying a military order would result in death, but passing the message might not result in death. This fourth prince is trying to get someone else to do his dirty work. If it's so vicious. Xiayu didn't have any other choice and asked, Fourth prince, what do I want to ask? Just have them hand over Mu Ran. All right. Xiayu rode on his horse and looked at the city wall in front of him. He had a strange feeling that he was going to die soon. Also, that arrow just now, it said that those who pass the arrow will die. I wonder if that is true or not. Chapter 779. Right now, Xiayu was trembling with fear. If tens of thousands of arrows were to shoot at him, he would definitely be turned into a hornet's nest. Just thinking about it made his scalp numb. Yi Hua looked at Xiayu who walked out from the army. Who is this person? He is the former royal family of Lingtai country. Mu Ran said lightly. Those who didn't know would have thought that the two of them were together. They were actually chatting casually. Yi Hua understood. So that's the case. Interesting. Yi Hua waved his hand towards Serena who was behind him. The latter ignored him and immediately started making arrangements. Xiayu rode his horse and arrived at the center of the city. The cold wind caused his arms to become stiff. He could only look up at the 300 m tall city wall. Just as Xiayu was panicking, the war drums suddenly sounded out again. The war drums this time were different from before. The war drums brought along a very impassioned mood. Flags could be seen being erected on the city wall. Along with the cold wind, an enormous pressure immediately swept over. How could the war horse that Xiayu was riding on endure such an imposing aura? It immediately became very agitated. Xiayu accidentally fell off the war horse and landed on the snowy ground. He was in a sorry state and the war horse immediately ran away. Seeing this scene, Yi Hua revealed a smile of disdain. Truly a little weak, unable to be brought onto the stage. Xiayu who landed on the snowy ground was very embarrassed. His originally pale face had now become red. Right now, I can only walk up. With heavy footsteps, Xiayu gradually walked to the city gate and discovered a problem. Even if I shout till my throat breaks, the people on the city gate won't be able to hear me. Just as Xiayu was thinking of a way, the huge city gate actually slowly opened. This caused Xiayu to unconsciously take a step back. The battle is imminent and they actually opened the city gate. What is the meaning of this? Right now Ma Ji and Feng Meiying were also very puzzled. They didn't understand the other party's intention. This is too careless, isn't it? Everyone looked at the city gate, seemingly wanting to see who would appear. However, everyone was about to be disappointed. The person that appeared was not a human. It was a husky. Sending out a dog. Is this a mockery from Wushu Empire? The 300,000 troops were burning with rage. This is a blatant mockery. To send out a dog to negotiate, this is too much. Mu Ran also saw that Yun Lang had walked out. He was puzzled. Yun Lang was looking down on the emperor. Why would the emperor do this? This would infuriate the other party. Even if she wanted to reconcile later, it would be impossible. Letting a dog out, His Majesty. Mu Ran couldn't help but ask curiously. Yihua took a look at Mu Ran, then said faintly, "This is already thinking very highly of them." Mu Ran did not speak. She was thinking about what she was going to say later. Below, Xiaoyu saw a dog walking towards him. That silver fur, those strange eyes, seemed to be revealing something. He couldn't move at all. What kind of dog was this? How could it have such an ability? Yun Lang circled around Xiaoyu and sniffed the air out of condition reflex. After that, he discovered that, why did I have to sniff the air? I'm not a real dog, I am a fake dog. Seems like I have gotten used to being a dog recently, and all of my actions are subconscious. Yun Lang gave Xiaoyu a disdainful gaze and slightly raised his head. This was the contempt of a king. Suppressing the panic in his heart, Xiaoyu yelled, "Let Mu Ran go. I'll spare your lives." Yihua was naturally able to hear Mu Ran's words and said with a smile, "This person's tone is rather big. What do you think, Mu Ran?" Mu Ran did not speak. She felt that she wasn't a hostage at all, but rather an accomplice. Yun Lang shook his head. "Seems like you can't do it, change to another one." In order to achieve fairness, Yun Lang took small steps and walked towards the 300,000 strong army, and his gaze emitted out a different kind of coldness. Death gaze. Xiaoyu hurriedly turned around and ran. His words had also arrived. At this moment the scene became strange. Yun Lang walked over with his head held high and chest puffed out, while Xiaoyu was panicking and would even fall down from time to time. This made the 300,000 strong army blush with shame, and they wished that they could kill this fellow who lost his imposing manner. "Look at other people's dogs, shouldn't you learn from their footwork? Just like that, I lost the first round. Humans can't be compared to dogs." Not long later, Yun Lang arrived in front of the 300,000 strong army, and as if he was inspecting his own army, it made everyone want to eat dog meat. After all, in this freezing weather, having a plate of dog meat should be very refreshing. "This dog is a little strange," Ma Ji said gravely. Fang Meiying also felt it. Although she couldn't put her finger on it, but this dog was definitely not an ordinary dog. Yun Lang could be seen stopping in front of Fang Meiying, then turning around he raised his leg and gestured, seemingly wanting Fang Meiying to follow him. "Don't go," Ma Ji said in a low voice. Fang Meiying paused for a moment. "Don't worry, nothing will happen." Towards this kind of dog Fang Meiying was also very puzzled, but she didn't take action to kill it. If she took action just now, the situation should be even more joyous. If that was the case, Yun Lang would be able to have a full meal. Yun Lang walked at the front and Fang Meiying followed behind unhurriedly. Fang Meiying appeared to be very confident. After all, she was the strongest out of everyone. Rank 1 Do Huang. Yun Lang directly brought Fang Meiying into the city, and soon after the city gate closed. The 300,000 strong army was filled with admiration in their hearts. As expected of an elder of Tianliang sect, just this kind of spirit, who can have it? Charging into a tiger's den alone. Awesome. When Mu Ran, who was on the city gate tower, saw that her master had entered, she became very excited, not knowing what the emperor was doing. Yihua asked indifferently, "You are going to meet with master soon, are you very happy?" "Your Majesty. Just what are you trying to do?" Mu Ran completely didn't know, but at the same time she really wanted to know. Yihua didn't speak and lightly leaned on the city wall, waiting for Fang Meiying to come up. Fang Meiying, who was following behind Yun Lang, was also very puzzled. "This dog seems to be bringing me to meet the emperor. Could it be that he isn't afraid that I will directly kill the emperor? Or could it be that he isn't afraid at all? Should I make a move and kill the emperor later on? I have to think about it now." The city gate tower that was 300 meters tall wasn't that easy to climb. After quite a while, Yun Lang brought Fang Meiying to the top of the city wall. Then Yun Lang squatted at the side and guarded. "Teacher." Mu Ran shouted out excitedly and immediately pounced into Fang Meiying's embrace. Yihua looked at Mu Ran and did not stop Mu Ran. After all, the reason why he called Mu Ran up to Fang Meiying was because he wanted to see the relationship between the two of them. "Ran, are you all right?" Fang Meiying asked concernedly as she stroked onto Mu Ran's hair. Mu Ran nodded her head. Master, I am very good. The emperor treats me very well too. Speaking of the emperor, Fang Meiying raised her head and looked towards Yi Hua. The impression that this person gives me is a bit frivolous. As an emperor, he is actually slightly leaning on the wall and he doesn't have any poise at all. Other than that kind of handsome face of his, he is still somewhat useful. Also, the two women that are at the side, their attire is so revealing. With just a look, they are definitely not good people. Chapter 780. Should he just kill him now? No. He was an elder of the Wuliang sect. If he were to kill him in this situation, he would definitely be laughed at. After all, the emperor had invited him here, and if he were to kill him, it would be very shameful. After all, the other party looked very weak. Fang Meiying stood in front of Mu Ran and looked at Yi Hua vigilantly. Yi Hua said faintly, "Don't be nervous, I won't harm you." Fang Meiying was speechless. "I'm considering whether or not I should hurt you. But you said you wouldn't hurt me. Where did your confidence come from?" "Teacher, nothing will happen," Mu Ran said. Mu Ran seemed to have a lot of trust in Yi Hua. When Fang Meiying heard Ran'er's words, she immediately felt that something was wrong. Why was Ran'er speaking up for the other party? Was he under some kind of spell? Fang Meiying quickly held Mu Ran's hand and checked her physical condition. Yi Hua did not stop them and waited quietly. "Master, I'm fine." "I'm fine," Mu Ran whispered. Fang Meiying was very confused. Ran'er was actually fine, but this was too abnormal. "I rather admire this disciple of yours," Yi Hua said faintly. "What do you want?" Fang Meiying asked coldly. Yi Hua laughed lightly. "You all brought people to my territory and you all are asking me what I want to do? There's something wrong with your logic." "Of course I'm here to look for my disciple," Fang Meiying said in a deep voice. "Is that so? Then does this emperor understand that once we bring the hostage away, you all will retreat?" Yi Hua asked faintly. Fang Meiying frowned slightly and did not reply. At this time, Mu Ran hurriedly advised, "Master, the emperor has already promised to let me go. Don't attack." "That's right. Mu Ran is right. After all, these are 300,000 lives. Although it looks good to dye the snow red, it's too cruel." Mu Ran was speechless and hurriedly explained, "Master, His Majesty didn't mean that." Her disciple had repeatedly interceded with the emperor, causing Fang Meiying to be in a bad mood. The most urgent thing to do now was to take Ran'er away. "I'm taking him away. If you want to stop me, then come and try," Fang Meiying said coldly and grabbed Mu Ran's hand. "Sure." Yi Hua didn't plan to force Mu Ran to stay. "Follow Master." "Teacher, wait a moment," Mu Ran hurriedly said to Yi Hua. "Your Majesty, my..." Yi Hua knew what Mu Ran wanted to say. "Don't worry, I won't go so far as to make things difficult for ordinary people." Mu Ran nodded, looked at Song Kong Hong behind her and reached out to hold her hand. This action made Fang Meiying's face sink. This strong man was wearing an iron mask. What was his relationship with Mu Ran? Thousands of curses floated out from Song Kong Hong's heart. This Mu Ran actually grabbed my hand in front of so many people. He really wanted to shake it off. But his honor has given me an order, I can't shake him off. "Master, he saved me twice," Mu Ran explained. Fang Meiying glanced at Song Kong Hong and flew back to her camp with the two of them. Looking at the three people leaving, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. When the 300,000 soldiers saw that Elder Fang had brought them out, they immediately cheered in victory. Elder Fang was truly amazing. This was the first time he had seen someone being taken away by the emperor. This emperor is definitely afraid and doesn't dare to offend the mighty Tianliang sect. When Feng Yun saw that Mu Ran was brought back, he slightly wrinkled his brows, seemingly not very happy. Why did the other party let Mu Ran go so easily? Could it be that the other party is really afraid of Wuliang sect? This is not a good thing. Tianliang sect brought so many people over, how could they possibly leave so easily? Could it be that Tianliang sect wants to take this city for themselves as well? Feng Yun's guess was indeed correct. Before Tianliang sect came over, Tianliang sect didn't have any thoughts of taking over the city, they only wanted to exterminate the city. However, right now Tianliang sect wants to take over the city as well. After all, this Wushu Empire is truly magnificent. If Tianliang sect were to move over to Wushu Empire, it would also be something that would gain face for Wushu Empire. After returning to the camp, Mu Ran shouted out respectfully towards Ma Ji, "Elder Ma." Ma Ji smiled slightly. "Mu Ran, it's good that you are fine." Mu Ran feels guilty for making Master and Elder Ma worried. Ma Ji smiled, then began discussing something with Fong Ming. Meanwhile, Mu Ran was very puzzled. Didn't Master say that we are leaving? Master, what are you doing? Aren't we going back? Mu Ran asked confusedly. Fong Ming looked at her disciple and said gravely, Mu Ran, do you know how your senior brother died? Mu Ran nodded her head and said in a low voice, Mu Ran heard about it. Senior brother trespassed into Wuxia Empire's airspace and was killed. However, senior sister is fine. Hearing what Mu Ran said, Fong Ming and Ma Ji were a bit stupefied. Are you blaming your senior brother for trespassing into someone else's territory? Mu Ran, do you know what you are saying? Fong Ming reprimanded coldly. Mu Ran also knew that what she said just now was wrong, and felt that she was speaking up for Wuxia Empire. Master, I didn't mean it like that, but if we were to fight today, someone would definitely die. Mu Ran doesn't want. Before Mu Ran could finish speaking, Ma Ji said gravely, Mu Ran, today we are not only here to save you, we are also here to redeem Tianliang sect's dignity. But Master, just now you already agreed. Shut up. Are you their people or mine? Fong Ming shouted out, and she even wanted to slap Mu Ran. Ma Ji said faintly, Mu Ran, in such a small place, do you think that someone would die? In just a few minutes we would trample over this place. Master. But just now you clearly promised the Emperor that you would. Slap. Fong Ming still couldn't help but slap Mu Ran. Song Kong Hong, who was standing at the side, moved slightly, but in the end she still stopped and didn't make a move. I am here to protect Mu Ran. Meanwhile, Mu Ran held onto her face and looked at Master in disbelief. This is the first time that Master has slapped me. Mu Ran, look at your position clearly before talking to Master. Fong Ming shouted out. Mu Ran became silent. I finally know why that Emperor said that. What he said is right. Even if I come out, they still wouldn't leave. Because I am just an excuse for them to mobilize their troops. Yi Hua, who was standing on the city wall, saw everything. Little Mu Ran, you are really pitiful. You got slapped by Master, right? You really don't know how to look at the situation. I still need to learn more. Seeing that it was about time, Yi Hua slowly walked down the stairs. Within the army, Feng Yun stood respectfully in front of Fong Ming and Ma Ji. In his heart, Feng Yun was scolding Fong Ming for being so shameless, to actually want to let our own people become cannon fodder. But right now, other than agreeing to it, I don't have any other choice. Mu Ran, who was standing at the side, didn't have any other choice. This magnificent Wuxia Empire is going to be occupied. I can't let them retreat and deceive the Emperor. If I am still in his hands, it might be a bit better. Chapter 781. General, are we going to be cannon fodder? Ding Wenba asked at the side. Feng Yun's expression was gloomy. If I wait until I become stronger, the first one I will destroy will be Tianliang sect. Go and arrange for the siege. Feng Yun said gravely. Right at this moment, Feng Yun heard a cry of surprise coming from outside and immediately walked out of the tent. Wuxia Empire's gate could be seen opening once again. This time someone came out. 2 rows of white-armored warriors walked out of the city gate in an orderly manner, forming a long line. Suddenly, a golden carpet was laid out from the city, and it just so happened to be in the middle of the white-armored warriors, giving off the feeling of a nouveau riche. 300,000 people are just quietly watching. What is the meaning of this? The 2 rows of white-armored warriors suddenly stopped their footsteps and stood facing each other. They instantly raised the flag of Wuxia Empire and crossed it together. And in the city, 3 figures appeared. Yi Hua stepped on the golden carpet, and the blood race sisters followed behind him. The 3 slowly walked out. Everyone took in a breath of cold air. This emperor sure knows how to act cool. And there are 300,000 spectators watching him act cool. Right now Yi Hua was feeling very good. Although there wasn't any big scene, this kind of low-profile acting cool still felt very good. After walking to the end of the golden carpet, Yi Hua stopped his footsteps. At this moment the sunlight in the sky suddenly shifted and actually shone on Yi Hua's body, causing the emperor's gown to shine brightly, looking very dazzling. This added a different kind of acting cool. 300,000 people looked at this emperor, and their minds were all stupefied. This is the first time. This is really the first time. Yi Hua, who was standing below the flag, said to the 300,000 people, Heavens! If you all retreat, I will let bygones be bygones, but if you all continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, This snowy land will be the best place for you all to return to. I never lie. Everyone immediately became silent. You are King bragging, right? We haven't even seen the regular army and you still dare to say that you are going to destroy us. This emperor not only knows how to act cool, he also knows how to brag. Later on I will let you see what is called awesome. Yihua turned around and walked into the city with a smile of disdain on the corner of his mouth. Actually, I can choose not to come out, but I like to be benevolent, so I will still give them a way out. As for their choice, it is unknown. Yihua didn't continue going up the city gate and returned to the palace. I will leave this place to the blood race sisters, it is more than enough. After all, in this kind of small situation, the Supreme Overlord had already given a lot of face by coming forward to say a few words. When the 300,000 people realized that the emperor did not go up to the tower to observe, they all laughed. The emperor had run away, leaving only the two women to watch the show. Even Feng Ming and Ma Ji felt the same way. There was a light smile on their lips. The city was too easy to come to. It was really effortless to come here. The emperor was probably preparing to escape through the secret passage, leaving behind two women to bring up the rear. However, Mu Ran, who was behind him, did not think so. The emperor was definitely not someone who would run away. And those subordinates of the emperor, only two women came out. Those two women seemed to be standing at the back that day, and those people who were standing at the front didn't even appear. Mu Ran had a bad premonition. Although her teacher had hit her just now, she still couldn't help but to persuade her teacher again, "Teacher." But before Mu Ran could finish, Feng Ming said coldly, "Mu Ran, don't think that you can criticize Master's words and actions just because you are the heavenly Dao now." Mu Ran didn't say anything. Meanwhile, on Feng Yun's side, he was already preparing to take action. The exclusive weapon for breaking through the city gate had already been prepared. It was a huge iron rod that was black, big and thick. This wasn't any ordinary fine iron, it was made from meteorite iron, and such a big piece of iron was definitely worth a lot. From this, it could be seen that Feng Yongzhang was also very meticulous this time, giving all of the good stuff to his son. However, Feng Yun was rather smart. He only sent 50,000 soldiers to take the lead and charge at the city gate, and the black rod that was being carried by the wheels of the carriage followed along as well. Kill! 50,000 soldiers roared out furiously, pulled out their swords and charged towards Wuxia Empire. An austere aura immediately engulfed the entire battlefield. Feng Yun closely observed the situation of the battlefield, and Ding Wenbo, who was behind him, wrinkled his brows and said, "General, the other party doesn't seem to be moving at all." Feng Yun naturally also discovered that there weren't any archers on top of the city wall, and all of the soldiers were standing on the ground, not having any intention to engage in battle at all. Are they planning to surrender? If that's the case, it's too easy for me, and I have completely given everything to Tianliang's sect. All of the benefits belong to them, and I don't even have the chance to get any leftovers, damn it. However, right at this moment, the sky that was originally clear gradually darkened and snow started falling once again. The density of the snow made everyone puzzled. I have never seen snow falling like this before. Everything in front of me is actually completely blank, just like a snowy sunset. The hands of the blood race sisters that were standing on top of the city wall were emitting out white light. During these few years, everyone in the team had been training hard, especially those that were lagging behind. They didn't dare to slack off at all. Strength is indeed very strong. However, from that battle with Nan Wuqi, they also realized that strength isn't invincible. One still needs to know a bit of magic, and this was also the shortcoming of most people. This move of the blood race sisters was taught by Yu Hua. Although it wasn't as powerful as Yu Hua, it was still enough. This kind of snowy sunset only appeared on the battlefield, and the 50,000 soldiers seemed to have lost their target. They couldn't differentiate between north and south, and didn't know which direction they should charge towards. Seeing this scene, Feng Yun didn't know why, but he felt a bit happy. Seems like the other party still has some strength, and I thought that I would be able to deal with them with just my own people. Feng Ming and Ma Ji's originally relaxed expression gradually became grave. This kind of snowstorm is not normal. Mu Ran looked at the spectacle in front of her, and suddenly felt that the emperor didn't lie to her. The blood of 300,000 people splashed onto the snowy ground. This isn't impossible. The falling snow in the sky gradually turned into hail. The smallest was actually the size of a fist, and the biggest was at least the size of an adult. Falling from a height of 10,000 meters, it was extremely terrifying. Furthermore, the density of the hail made it so that there was no way for people to escape, and the 50,000 soldiers immediately let out miserable screams, and those that had shields immediately raised up. However, when those huge hailstones fell onto the shields, they were unable to withstand it and they immediately fainted. Then they fell onto the snowy ground and got trampled on by the people beside them or get hit by the hailstones again. Basically, if the hailstones hit their heads, it would be game over. The miserable screams within the battlefield became softer and softer, and soon there was nothing left. However, not even a minute passed by. When the snowy sunset dispersed, only the white snowy ground was left, and everyone was buried within the snowy ground, because there were some places that were still blood red. The remaining 250,000 people were already stupefied. This snowstorm alone buried 50,000 people. This is simply too savage. This is simply inhumane. Chapter 782. That beautiful face was filled with bloodlust, and her eyes were gradually turning red. This was not a cry, but a sign unique to the Blood Clan. Feng Yun stood outside the tent, not feeling sad for the 50,000 dead warriors, and even felt that it was quite good. Now your Tianliang sect should send troops. You can't let me keep sending people to die. However, just as Feng Yun finished thinking, a disciple came over and asked Feng Yun to go over. Feng Yun of course didn't dare to disobey and went to Wuliang sect's camp. Senior juniors warriors are all ordinary people. We can't do anything about this situation. Please make a decision. Feng Yun said respectfully. Feng Meiying was silent. Ma Ji said indifferently, continue sending troops, I have a way this time. Hearing this, Feng Yun's face changed, but he lowered his head so no one noticed. This person is so ruthless. Let all my people die and then they will find a way to solve this. Tianliang sect is really ruthless. Today I learned something new. Mu Ran, who was standing behind, was also very surprised. Elder Ma actually wanted to send people to die. Is Tianliang sect so unreasonable? Mu Ran had only been in Tianliang sect for a short 3 years. In these 3 years, Tianliang sect didn't have any wars. In Mu Ran's eyes, Tianliang sect was still very good. But today he saw clearly that Tianliang sect was also a sect that didn't care about human lives. Mu Ran's heart was filled with disappointment. Go quickly. What are you waiting for? Ma Ji shouted coldly. Feng Yun's forehead was bulging with blue veins. Should he say no? If he said yes and Feng Yun dared to say it, he would die on the spot. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. Feng Yun will remember this debt. Yes. Feng Yun replied respectfully and then returned to his camp. Ding Wenbo quickly asked, General, what's wrong? Damn Tianliang sect, they're too much. Feng Yun's fist slammed on the table. General, does Tianliang sect still want us to send people? This is too hateful. Then tell me, is there any other way? If I don't obey, we will be the ones to die. Feng Yun rubbed his forehead and said coldly, I swear. I must destroy Tianliang sect. Ding Wenbo didn't say anything and Xiaoyu was still standing on the side. A short while later, Feng Yun waved his hand, go make the arrangements. Yes. Ding Wenbo accepted the order and went to make arrangements. This was completely sending others to their deaths. As expected, when Ding Wenbo announced the order, the remaining 50,000 soldiers began to discuss among themselves. Some even disobeyed. However, the general was a ruthless person, killing decisively, immediately suppressing everyone. Soldiers, Cold Sky sect has an idea this time, it won't be like before. Ding Wenbo shouted loudly as if he was using this method to stabilize the morale of the army. However, Ding Wenbo was a civil official after all. This kind of rhetoric had no effect at all and it even attracted more retorts. In the end he was suppressed. However, the soldiers had no choice. There was an order from above. Even if it was an abyss in front of them, they had to jump in. But was it really worth it? Even if he had to die in battle, at least there would be an enemy. Look at Voidless Empire, their soldiers are all standing on top of the city walls and didn't come down at all. However, their own people have indeed died. The remaining 50,000 soldiers of the Duchy of Gouda slowly walked out. They no longer had the aura of wanting to kill. Every step they took was very careful. Snow began to fall from the dark sky once again, and the scene was exactly the same as before. This caused the 50,000 soldiers to be terrified to the extreme. In an instant they began to run in disorder. Hailstones had already formed above the clouds, and as long as the hailstones descend, these 50,000 soldiers would fall once again. Solidify. Ma Ji's hands could be seen immediately forming hand seals, and a yellow light could be seen appearing in the sky. A yellow dot could be seen spreading out in the shape of a fan, enveloping the entire battlefield. The heavy snow immediately stopped. The 50,000 soldiers saw that Cold Sky sect had made their move, and when the hailstones landed on the shield, they were unable to smash into the shield. Gradually, the 50,000 soldiers began to cheer, picked up their blades, and once again rushed towards the city gate. Ma Ji sneered, "You dare to be impudent in front of me with such insignificant skills. You are truly courting death." When the hailstones landed on the shield, all of the hailstones shattered. The hailstones were unable to pierce through the shield at all, and the shield protected the 50,000 soldiers below. Just when those 50,000 soldiers were feeling happy, the hailstones in the sky gradually changed. Just like daggers, the hailstones descended from the sky with cold glints. The degree of density of the hailstones caused people to feel numb, especially for people who had trypophobia. They would feel numb. Countless ice blades forcefully stabbed into the shield, but they were unable to pierce into the shield. Ma Ji was in the middle of releasing the ice blades, and he was continuously strengthening the shield, and cold sweat could be seen appearing on his forehead. Right at this moment, an extremely large ice blade appeared in the sky. Compared to the other small ice blades, those are all ants. This is what Big Brother is. The extremely large ice blade that brought along a cold glint pressed straight towards the shield. Even Feng Meiying was dumbfounded for a moment. What kind of spell is this? It is so powerful. The extremely large ice blade pierced through the shield without any difficulty, and Ma Ji couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of blood, suffering from the backlash. The extremely large ice blade that landed on the ground was like a small mountain, and in an instant quite a number of people were crushed to death. Without the protection of the shield, those countless small ice blades that landed on the ground were densely packed, and no one was able to escape from this kind of attack. This was the legendary knife of the underworld. In an instant all 50,000 soldiers fell onto the ground, and warm blood sprayed onto the snowy ground, forming a magnificent picture. Just like what Yi Hua said, this snowy ground would be dyed with the blood of 300,000 soldiers. Seeing this scene, Feng Yun found it hard to believe. It's over. This is the first time I went out to battle and my entire army was wiped out. How am I going to explain this to my father when I return? I am completely unable to explain this to my father. Furthermore, if my father emperor were to know about this, he would definitely be angered to death. Because this is a battle that paved the way for me. It is all this damn Tianliang sect's fault. Why don't all of you go and die? Elder Feng, are you all right? Feng Meiying, who was at the side, asked gravely. I'm all right, I was careless. Ma Ji said coldly. Just now, I also made a fool out of myself and I actually vomited blood. If this were to be spread back to the sect, wouldn't I become a laughing stock? Feng Meiying said faintly, those 100,000 soldiers did not die in vain. I have a way to deal with them. When Mu Ran heard what her master said, her heart skipped a beat. To actually say that those 100,000 soldiers died in vain, I feel that my master has become a stranger in front of me. Following Feng Meiying's command, the 100,000 soldiers of Tianliang sect walked out. This was 100,000 doge. Their strength cannot be underestimated and they are truly terrifying. And Feng Meiying already has a way to break the enemy's technique. The 100,000 disciples of Tianliang sect shouted out and all of them started their charging mode. And Feng Meiying had already started his preparations. However, this time there was no snowstorm. This made Feng Meiying very puzzled, and the 100,000 disciples that were present were all puzzled. Chapter 783. Looking at the situation, Feng Meiying gradually became serious. The other party does not intend to use the same trick again. What are they trying to do? The 100,000 people at the scene looked at the surroundings vigilantly. The snow on the ground moved faster and faster, to the point that it even swept up the corpses that were just killed. The strange scene made everyone's heart turn cold. Seeing this scene, Feng Yun's back turned cold. Just when did Wuxia Empire appear? Just what is going to happen? Seeing this scene, Mu Ran became even more certain of the emperor's words. If they don't leave, everyone will die here. Suddenly, Mu Ran thought of something. No wonder the emperor handed me over so easily, because he has the confidence to capture me back and let me see everyone's face. What kind of person was this emperor? Why was his mind so meticulous? Every step seemed to be within his calculations. So terrifying. Elder Fong, this Wushu Empire is a bit strange. Right now Maji was a bit worried as well. He discovered that things aren't as simple as he thought. Fong Meng's expression was grave as she turned her head and asked Mu Ran, "You have stayed here for a period of time, just how strong is this Wushu Empire?" No matter what, Fong Meng was her teacher. Mu Ran said respectfully, "Teacher, disciple does not know how strong they are. This Wushu Empire doesn't have any officials. Other than the emperor and the 2 empresses, there are still 20+ subordinates, and the 2 people who are standing on the city wall are precisely one of those subordinates." Hearing Mu Ran's words, Fong Meng and Ma Ji became even more grave. Just a moment ago they were still laughing at the emperor for running away and leaving behind 2 women. It seems like the emperor didn't even bother to continue watching and left behind 2 women to clean up. Just as the 2 were guessing, a terrifying thing happened at the scene. The snow on the ground quickly moved and formed into 5 snowballs that were 300 meters tall. That was about the same height as the city wall. However, the 5 snowballs actually stretched out their legs, hands and even their heads. Adding on the legs and heads, the height had already surpassed the city wall, and the 100,000 disciples on the ground were just like ants. What was terrifying was that on the bodies of the 5 snowmen, all of them were people who had just died, and they were all embedded in the bodies of the snowmen. Half of the faces were smashed off, and the snowmen even used 100 human heads as their eyes, causing people to tremble in fear. What kind of monster is this? Ma Ji raised his head and looked at the enormous snowman and muttered. Fong Meng didn't know what to say. Her eyes were filled with horror. Mu Ran was also dumbfounded and in disbelief. Beside her, Song Konghong was very calm. If Yu Hua was here it would be even more spectacular. At that time it would not be 5 but 50. However, now that he thought of moonlight, Song Konghong felt very calm. This made Song Konghong a little puzzled. When Feng Yun saw this scene, his intestines turned green with regret. Were they paving the way for him or were they using him to pave the way? This kind of snowman, just one of them would be enough to destroy Gouda Principality, let alone 5 of them right now. Damn it, you immortals are fighting, why do you have to call a mortal like me? Shameless. Shameless. The ones who were most afraid were the 100,000 disciples on the battlefield. They had all forgotten to run and their faces were filled with despair. No one knew who gave the order to run, but everyone followed. The 5 snowmen didn't do anything else. They just lifted their feet and stomped down. 5 loud sounds rang out across the world, causing the ground to tremble. Even those in Wushu Empire could feel it. It was unknown how many people would die from the stomp of those enormous feet. All of the disciples rolled and crawled as they ran. They didn't have any desire to fight at all. Meanwhile, the 100,000 disciples who were standing and watching the battle felt their bodies go numb. With 5 stomps, at least a few thousand would die, and with a few more stomps, all of them would definitely die. Ma Ji and Fong Meng took a look at each other, then released all of their duki and condensed into swords in their hands. Immediately they attacked towards the snowmen. If the 2 of them didn't make a move now, it would be impossible to save the situation. The 5 snowmen continued to stomp, and the disciples on the ground fled in panic. I don't want to die. Isn't Tianliang sect the strongest sect in northern Liang? Why is there an existence that is even more powerful than Tianliang sect? Don't step on it. No matter how these disciples ran, they couldn't outrun the stomping of the snowmen. The 5 snowmen were just like stepping on ants, one stomp after another. In just a short while, almost all of the 100,000 disciples died on the spot. Sky profound sword technique. Ma Ji shouted out furiously. His peak stage King Realm strength was unleashed with all his might. His body emitted a faint radiance, and the sword in his hand released a sword light that pressed straight towards the head of the snowman. Hua! The sword light easily penetrated the head of the snowman, but what were snowmen made of? They weren't living things, therefore this kind of damage could be ignored. The head that was cut open actually gradually closed up, and then as if nothing had happened, it continued to stomp. How is this possible? Ma Ji, who was holding the sword in his hand, muttered. However, just when Ma Ji was lost in thought, one of the snowmen actually didn't continue to step on the disciples, but instead sneak attacked Ma Ji. Be careful! Fong Meng shouted in a delicate voice. When Ma Ji reacted, it was already too late. The snowman's fist fiercely hit Ma Ji's body. Ma Ji's body smashed into the ground like a cannonball, creating a huge pit. The disciples were all stunned. This was Elder Fong, who was at the peak of King Realm. He was actually smashed into the ground by a snowman, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. What kind of strength did these 5 snowmen have? Why were there such monsters in this world? God, please come and take them in. Fong Meiying didn't hold back anymore. She instantly displayed the strength of a first-grade King Realm Do, and a terrifying Do Chi spread out. Illusion Breaker. Heaven Sword Art. The sword in Fong Meiying's hand flew towards the sky and released a dazzling light. A huge sword image appeared in the sky, and it carried along a terrifying destructive power. I will let you all experience what is called death. Fong Meiying shouted in a delicate voice. Her finger immediately pointed towards the city gate, seemingly wanting to use the sword to cut down the city gate of Wuxia Empire. The huge sword image descended with a terrifying pressure. When the 5 snowmen saw this situation, they actually chose to stand under the huge sword and raised their hands. Those who didn't know might have thought that they were going to surrender. This move was one of Fong Meiying's ultimate moves, and she wouldn't use it unless she had no other choice. After all, this was a trump card. Bang! The huge sword image landed on the hands of the 5 snowmen and released a terrifying aura. This caused the disciples present to be dumbstruck. Is this the strength of a King Realm Do? This is completely not the same level as a King Realm Do. As expected of Elder Fong, she was able to suppress these 5 monsters by herself. Feng Yun was also dumbstruck. This Cold Sky sect is indeed very powerful, and this woman is also the same. To actually be able to suppress the snowmen, she is truly very powerful. Muran was also very surprised. Teacher is truly very powerful. Bang. Chapter 784. The sword images disappeared as well, and Fong Meiying's breathing became a little hurried. Using this ultimate move brought me a very strong feeling of fatigue, but if I don't use it, there is no better way. Right now the Do Chi in my body is a little chaotic. Seems like attacking Wuxia Empire this time was still too rash. I should have sent a few more elders or a peak Emperor Realm sect leader, that way I might still have a chance of winning. But luckily I managed to get rid of those 5 monsters. Fong Meiying turned her head and looked at Ma Ji, who was in the hole. I don't know if he is dead or alive. I didn't expect those snowmen to be so strong. A peak Emperor Realm martial artist couldn't even withstand a single punch from them. Serena, who was on the city wall, rubbed her little sister's shoulder. You are driving a car again. Big sister, sorry, I was just thinking about what to eat tonight. Serena said apologetically. So embarrassing. Serena rolled her eyes at her little sister. Do you think I don't know you? Don't you know what you want to eat? Sister, you're so annoying. Don't you like to eat it as well? Serene raised her eyebrows. She had a look that said, aren't you the same? How dare you lecture me? Concentrate, I am doing something. Serena nodded her head seriously. The 2 sisters started casting again. While Fong Meiying, who was in the sky, was thinking, a terrifying Do Chi fluctuation gathered below. Fong Meiying immediately retreated and looked at the pile of snow vigilantly. Everyone felt the terrifying aura that the pile of snow was emitting, and fear appeared in their eyes. Why did I have to come here? Isn't it better to stay in Tianliang sect and train? Why do I have to fight and kill? I hate fighting and killing. If these people had already attacked Wuxia Empire, they would definitely not hate fighting and killing and might even like fighting and killing. The pile of snow that had already collapsed once again fused together. Just now there were 5 snowmen, but this time there was only 1 snowman. The height of the snowman didn't change, but its body became more robust. All of the corpses formed every detail of its body: chest muscles, abdominal muscles, shark lines, mermaid lines. The veins on its arms were all formed by corpses. That huge head was even more terrifying. Blood was still dripping down from it. The huge snowman seemed to have a life of its own as it shook its head and swept its gaze across everyone. The snowman could be seen clenching its fists, slightly bowing its body and letting out a terrifying roar. This roar made everyone's hair stand up, and they could even smell the blood that the snowman spat out. Fong Meiying finally revealed a look of panic. If these snow corpses were only Do Wang's, in that case he was already a Do Huang. His strength was already on par with him or even slightly stronger. Fong Meiying couldn't care less. She turned around and shouted, "Retreat." The 10 battle arcs were ready to retreat at any time. Roar. The snow corpse roared angrily and exerted force with its legs. A powerful shockwave burst forth from the ground, and the snow corpse soared high into the air, leaping towards the battleship. The scene left everyone dumbfounded. The snow corpse was like a huge gorilla, using its terrifying jumping ability to draw a beautiful arc in the air. Boom boom boom. The snow corpses landed abruptly and everyone could feel their feet trembling. The battleships were like pieces of wood crushed by the snow corpses. The other battleships were then used by the snow corpses to play with. The huge battleship was like a child's toy to the snow corpses. Mu Ran gulped and finally admitted a cruel fact. The emperor was not bragging. What he said was the truth. Today all 300,000 people are going to die here. Light of World Lock. Fong Meiying shouted, and a rope condensed in her hand and flew towards the snow corpse. The purple rope instantly wrapped around the snow corpse and tied it tightly. It was commonly known as Asian binding. Mu Ran. Bring everyone in retreat. Fong Meiying shouted. She channeled all of her dou qi into the snow corpse and firmly tied it up. The snow corpse that was tied up seemed to be very angry. Its body seemed to have become a lot bigger, and one could even see its muscles expanding. Hearing her master's words, Mu Ran immediately arranged for everyone to retreat. However, how are we going to retreat now? Turn around and run. 100,000 people turned around and ran. Feng Yun didn't have much time to think and immediately rode on his horse and ran. If I don't run now, then when will I run? It's normal for me to stay at home and develop my strength. Why did I have to come out? Isn't it better to hide in the palace and develop my strength? Wouldn't it be better to wait until all the generals are selected before coming out? I am really stupid. However, after running for a few hundred meters, everyone suddenly fell down, seemed to have bumped into something. One of the disciples who fell down touched onto the ground confusedly. Although he couldn't see anything, it was very obvious that he touched onto something. Some people began to beat onto the ground ferociously, but no matter what, it was useless. Despair, a deep despair spread out in everyone's heart. They were trying to exterminate everyone here. Turning around and looking at that enormous snow corpse, Elder Fong is unable to hold on for much longer. That purple rope seems to be about to break. If we don't run out, everyone is going to die. My emperor gave you all a chance to live. It is you all who did not cherish it. Today the blood of 300,000 people will be sprinkled onto this land. There will be no mercy. Serena's words drifted into everyone's ears. After the remaining 100,000 disciples heard what Serena said, they began to beg bitterly. I am also obeying the emperor's orders. I don't have the intention to go against you. I beg Wuxia Empire to spare my lives. Mu Ran, who was within the group, was a bit dazed. She didn't know what to do. The emperor had already said these words to me. Why didn't they listen to me and insist on letting everyone die here? Why? Fong Meiying looked towards the blood sisters on the city wall. It seems like she is planning to capture the leader first, and that snow corpse is about to break free. Roar. Before the snow corpse finished speaking, the snow corpse roared furiously, and the purple rope on its body instantly broke apart, transforming into stars and disappeared. The snow corpse glared angrily at Fong Meiying, who was in midair, and the muscles on its body squirmed. Then the snow corpse shot out explosively. Its speed was so fast that it made one speechless. And Fong Meiying did the same as well. She slashed towards the blood sisters with her sharp sword. The blood sisters looked at Fong Meiying, who was attacking towards them. They did not take any defensive measures, seemingly intending to let Fong Meiying kill them as she pleased. Fong Meiying was overjoyed in her heart. As long as I kill these two women, this snow corpse will disappear. These two demonesses, this elder is going to dismember the two of you into pieces. Fong Meiying's speed was indeed very fast, but the snow corpse wasn't slow either. Although its body was huge, its arms were extremely long. If not, why would others feel that it looked like a gorilla? Go and die. 10,000 spirit magic sword. Fong Meiying shouted out, and the long sword in her hand emitted out a golden brilliance. The little sister Serena said with a slight smile, "Be careful of your back." Fong Meiying's gaze sank and a huge palm could be seen stretching over, then grabbing out. A terrifying sword aura erupted from the snow corpse's palm. Chapter 785. Roar. The snow corpse grabbed the spoils of war in its hand and patted its chest with its left hand as if it was showing off. The remaining 100,000 people saw that their elder had been captured by the snow corpses, with only his head sticking out of the snow corpse's hands. The snow corpses leaped up into the air. Boom. He landed a short distance away from the 100,000 Cold Sky sect disciples. Everyone was frightened silly and did not dare to move. Now that even a Do Huang elder had been captured, what use did they as Doja have? The snow corpse slowly stretched out its right hand, and everyone could see Elder Fong's painful expression. The fear in their hearts reached a peak, and some of the timid ones were so scared that they sat on the ground. Master! Mu Ran shouted, and her small body seemed to want to go and save the elder, but Song Kong Hong, who was at the side, pulled her back. Song Kong Hong! Let go of me. Although Master just hit me, Master was good to me in the past, how can I watch Master die in front of me? Song Kong Hong directly hugged Mu Ran, not letting her do anything. No matter how Mu Ran patted, Song Kong Hong didn't let go. The snow corpse gradually tightened its right hand, and everyone could hear the clenching sound coming from the huge palm, as well as Elder Fong's painful cry. Is this terrifying snow corpse trying to pinch a Do Huang to death? Feng Yun, who was not far away, was already scared. That's a Do Huang. You actually pinched him to death. Right now, Feng Meiying could feel that her body was being squeezed together, and her internal organs were all heavily injured. Puff. As the snow corpse tightened its grip, Feng Meiying spat out a blood mist. Everyone was scared. It really pinched a Do Huang to death. What kind of empire is this? It's even crueler than a sect. The snow corpse loosened its right hand, and Feng Meiying's body fell onto the ground, and she no longer looked like a human. Roar, roar, roar. The snow corpse beat its chest with both of its fists, let out a berserk roar, and started trampling mercilessly. There wasn't the slightest bit of mercy. Song Kong Hong hurriedly carried Mu Ran and dodged. It seemed dangerous, but actually it wasn't dangerous at all. Under this merciless trampling, 100,000 disciples were instantly killed, and only Feng Yun was left in Guda Principality. Ding Wenbo and Xia Yu couldn't escape at all, and they were all trampled to death. Enough. Enough. Don't kill anymore. Mu Ran cried miserably in Song Kong Hong's arms. However, as Mu Ran spoke, the snow corpses actually stopped. Only a few hundred of the 100,000 were left. Everyone looked at the snow corpses that stopped moving, and all of them were very puzzled. The snow corpse could be seen lowering its head and taking a look at everyone, then turning around and walking away. In the process of walking away, the snow corpse's body began to melt, and in the end, it turned into ordinary snow and fell onto the ground. Feng Yun went into a daze for a moment, then stretched out his hand and touched the invisible wall. Upon discovering that he could pass through the invisible wall, Feng Yun did not even think much and immediately broke into a run. And when the remaining disciples saw that Feng Yun was actually able to run out, they immediately didn't think of anything else and hurriedly ran away. However, Mu Ran wasn't in a hurry to run. Instead, she walked to the side of Feng Meiying's corpse and decided to bring her master's corpse back. After taking one last deep look at Voidless Empire, she walked in the direction of Tianliang's sect while Song Kong Hong followed behind Mu Ran. When is this protection mission going to end? Your Honor, at least say a deadline. Don't go on like this. The vampire sisters on the city wall pursed their lips and disappeared from the top of the city wall, appearing in the palace. The two bowed respectfully and said, "Reporting to Your Honor, everything is done." Yi Hua nodded his head. "Spread this news out. It is about time for Northern Liang to know about Voidless Empire." Yes. The two sisters received the order and left. Yi Hua took a deep breath. This north of Kangluo continent is a bit interesting. It seems to be more interesting than the south. However, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji seem to not be planning to share this moment of happiness with me. Yi Hua came to the children's palace, and in the garden he saw Qingya and Donghuang Baiji playing with the children. When the two of them saw Yi Hua, the happy smiles on their faces instantly disappeared. Yi Hua was also helpless. The speed at which the two of you change your expressions is a bit too fast. "Daddy!" The four little fellows shouted out. Yi Hua nodded his head, then walked forward and sat beside his wives. However, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't pay attention to Yi Hua, not even taking a look at Yi Hua. Yi Hua stretched out his hand, seemingly wanting to hold onto Qingya's hand. However, before he even managed to touch Qingya's hand, Qingya had already hidden away. Qingya even stood up and changed to another seat, distancing herself from Yi Hua. When the children saw this scene, they were also helpless. "Daddy, we are willing to accept the mission, but Mom is very angry. You have to coax her." Towards this situation, Yi Hua did not get angry. It was also reasonable for them to be angry. Just now, people came from outside the door. Guda Principality and Tianliang sect. A total of 300,000 people. Yi Hua said lightly. Seeing that his wives were not speaking, Yi Hua said faintly, I have already given them a chance, and Mu Ran had also tried to persuade them, but they still chose death. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji did not have any reaction to what Yi Hua said. Yi Hua thought that they would blame him for being cruel, and didn't expect that they would be so calm. However, in Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji's hearts, how is this considered cruel? Exiling our own children, that is cruel. This wife of mine has been not uttering a single word the entire time, and it is giving me a headache. Yi Hua feels that it is better for me to put down a bit of face. Wife, I'm hungry. Yi Hua said while looking at Xianxia. His tone was a bit strange and seemed to have a hint of acting coquettishly. Even a supreme overlord is able to act coquettishly? Oh my god, goosebumps are starting to appear all over Xianxia's body. I remember that last time when Yi Hua also acted coquettishly, it was simply unbearable. Not only Xianxia's entire body, Donghuang Baiji's entire body was the same. Even the children were the same as well. This was the first time they saw their father like this. He suddenly realized that although his father was strict, he was quite cute at times. Just like now, he was acting spoiled in front of his mother. Yi Hua gave Donghuang Li a look, and Donghuang Li immediately understood. Mom, Ali is hungry. Yi Yan could also understand his father's gaze. Mom, Yan'er is also hungry, I want to eat mom's cooking. It was useless for Yi Hua to beg bitterly. However, when it came to the children's request, the two mothers would definitely agree to it. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji walked over to the kitchen and started cooking. After the two mothers left, Donghuang Li said with a smile, Dad, didn't I say that Mom would definitely be angry? Daddy knows, so Daddy will coax your mommy. Don't worry. Yi Hua stroked onto Donghuang Li's face. Right now, Donghuang Li is becoming more and more beautiful. Donghuang Li is also enjoying her father's stroking. Dad, what are we going to do? God Yi suddenly asked curiously. Chapter 786. After all, Donghuang Li and God Yi were blood-related siblings, and Yi Yan and Yi Lu were the same as well. However, the two of them were unable to play with each other every day. This time, by letting them form a team like this, it would also increase the bond between siblings. It could be seen that when Yi Hua decided to form a team like this, the children revealed a disappointed expression. Donghuang Li wanted to form a team with Yi Yan. After all, these two little fellows would be able to play with each other, and right now Donghuang Li knew that she would have to bring along her ice cube little brother God Yi. Yi Yan was the same as well. He wanted to play with his big sister, but his little sister was a cold goddess, and they were not even on the same topic. God Yi had the same thoughts as well. Big sister is too playful, it would be best for little sister Yi Lu to form a team with me. She can study martial techniques and also spar with me. Yi Hua naturally knew what the children were thinking, and thus he said gravely, the matter of the teams has been decided, no one is allowed to go against it. Since their father had already said so, what else could the four little fellows do? They could only nod their heads and agree. Seeing that the children were obedient, Yi Hua felt happy. He walked towards the palace's kitchen and prepared to have a good talk with his wives. After their father left, the four little fellows sighed and laid on the stone table unhappily. Yi Hua arrived at the palace's kitchen. The equipment here was rather outdated, but it still had a unique flavor. The two empresses were currently cutting vegetables, and when they saw that their husbands had arrived, their expressions immediately turned ugly. Yi Hua let out a breath and said lightly, Don't be angry, it will only happen once, it won't happen again in the future. After saying that, Yi Hua thought to himself, as long as it happens once, their hearts will be wild, and at that time, they will naturally want to develop even higher. This is all a trick. After hearing that, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji remained silent. Yi Hua walked to Xianxia's back and hugged her from behind. Meanwhile, Xianxia raised the kitchen knife and shouted out sternly, Yi Hua, do you believe that I won't chop you in half? I don't believe you. Yi Hua tightly hugged onto Xianxia's slender waist and said indifferently, What exactly do you want? Xianxia said. You two can be at ease, I won't let the children get hurt. They are also not going out alone. Ali will bring God Yi and Yi Yan will bring Yi Lu. After all, they are blood-related siblings, but they have not played with each other for the past few years. Therefore this time they will be able to improve their relationship a bit, don't you two think? Yi Hua used his own theory to persuade the children. Needless to say, it really worked. Both Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji felt that they were blood-related siblings, but they weren't that close to each other. After all, their personalities were different. Yihua let go of Xianxia and placed Donghuang Baiji into his embrace, then said tenderly, "Baiji, am I right? What right and wrong? In any case, it isn't good for you to take the children away from us." Donghuang Baiji said tenderly. However, from her tone, Yihua could tell that she wasn't that angry anymore. Yihua stretched out his hand and embraced Xianxia into his embrace as well, then said warmly, all right, this is all for my own good. Just promise me this time, alright? In the future, whatever you guys say will be the law. I guarantee that I will not go against it. How about it? To Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji, this benefit is rather tempting. After all, Yihua often doesn't listen to me. If we are able to obtain an obedient Yihua this time, it would be pretty good. Besides, this time he was determined to send the children away. No matter how she begged, it was useless. It was better to take more benefits and train her husband well. Really? Xianxia had a look of disbelief on her face. Donghuang Baiji also had a look of disbelief on her face. You are a supreme overlord. If you were to listen to your wife's words, how embarrassing would that be? Yihua laughed lightly. When have I ever lied to you too? Furthermore, what's wrong with me listening to my wife's words? If anyone dares to make irresponsible remarks about me, I will destroy that person. What you mean is that you will listen to us in the future? Xianxia asked curiously. Yihua nodded his head. That's right. Donghuang Baiji asked closely. Everything, including your revenge plan? That's right. Yihua had put in a lot of effort. Children, for the sake of your future, your father has sacrificed a lot. Xianxia suddenly held on to Yihua's face. It just so happens that I need you to do something for me, and I can see if you are really obedient or not. Xianxia, you are my empress. Not to mention one thing, I am willing to do even 10,000 things for you. Xianxia said petulantly. Don't speak so fast, listen to me first. Alright, as long as you two can let the children leave peacefully, I am willing to do anything. Xianxia took a look at Donghuang Baiji, and Donghuang Baiji silently nodded her head. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows, and a bad feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. Xianxia could be seen saying seriously, if you marry Yutong, I will believe you. Yihua, F***K. I only have that little bit of excitement from having an affair and you two want to exploit me too? This is too cruel. Well, you want to test me again? These two wives of yours are really bad to actually use this kind of method. I nearly fell for your tricks. I say, Xianxia, is there any meaning in doing this? Yutong is my sister-in-law. What you are doing is trampling on the bottom line of morality. After Yihua finished speaking, he felt that it was a bit weird. It seems like I am having a great time having an affair. Donghuang Baiji snorted coldly. You still dare to say that you are obedient? Look, the first request you make is already disobedient. Yihua, I knew that you are a swindler. Xianxia, don't bother about him. In the future, don't bother about him anymore. Humph. Xianxia snorted coldly, then continued cooking. Yihua had a look of, you can scram now, don't come and bother us. In actuality, Yihua and Qin Yutong had discussed about this problem before. Rather than being exposed, it would be better to do it secretly. Using Qin Yutong's words, it was very exciting. As long as I am together with Qin Yutong, my heart would beat faster, and I would be afraid that my big sister would suddenly kill me. However, Yihua was the same as well. Other than having an affair with Qin Yutong, there seemed to be nothing else that could make me so nervous. If I were to really agree to it, then this excitement would be gone, and there would be nothing else in the world that could make me so nervous and restless. Xianxia, change your request. I can agree to anything you want. Yihua said gravely. I have already promised my sister-in-law that I will always be in this state, so how can I be a person who goes back on his words? Xianxia said faintly. I only have this one little sister. I can't bear to part with her, and I can't let you take advantage of her? If that's the case, then there is nothing to talk about. You are not even thinking for my sake. F***K. In the past, when we were together, when I wanted to do something to your little sister, you would throw a tantrum in every possible way. Now look at it, you want to send Yutong to my bed, but have you ever considered my feelings? I don't want to lose the only feeling of nervousness that I have. Xianxia, change your request, anything is fine. Yihua felt that he had to choose between the child and Yutong. Xianxia placed down the kitchen knife, then looked at her husband and said, I will only be at ease if Yutong is with you. In any case, you have spanked her butt. Chapter 787. Could it be that Yutong said it herself? She actually betrayed me. If that's the case, don't blame me for betraying you. Is this the only way for you two to be happy? Yihua asked gravely. His tone was filled with despair. He wasn't faking it. Upon thinking about how the feeling of excitement and nervousness would no longer exist, Yihua's heart was about to break. Seeing that Yihua had the intention to let go, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji pressed Yihua onto the chair, then squatted down and held onto their husbands' hands. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, Yihua, this matter has indeed troubled you, but Xianxia is also worried about Yutong. You are not young anymore, and we had already planned to get married a few years ago, but you were unwilling. Don't worry, we won't be angry. Yutong is not an outsider, we have lived together for so long anyway. That's right, hubby, Yutong is already so old, but sometimes she still acts like a child. You don't have to feel burdened, we can just go and do some mental work for Yutong. Xianxia persuaded. She was worried about her sister marrying someone else, and only by marrying Yihua would she be able to be at ease. It must be said that Xianxia's way of thinking had also changed along with Yihua's strength. In the past, this kind of thing would definitely not be allowed, but it was precisely because of Yihua's strength that Xianxia felt that other than Yihua, there seemed to be no one else in the world who could match up to her sister. Furthermore, those men were all extremely bad men. After hearing that, Yihua took in a deep breath. Such a wife. I love her so much, she knows how to find a woman for me. Yutong, in order to let the children go out peacefully, brother-in-law has no choice but to cheat you this time. Alright, as long as you two are happy. Yihua held onto his forehead with a painful look on his face. I'm not pretending, I'm really in pain. It feels so good to have an affair, and it's even my sister-in-law, just thinking about it makes me excited. Now that it's over, my sister-in-law has become my wife. What am I excited about? Hello Yihua. Xianxia kissed her husband and Donghuang Baiji did the same as well. Finally, one of Xianxia's wishes was fulfilled, and the main reason was to give Yihua a huge benefit, so that he could forget about other women. Alright, then don't be angry anymore, the children have their own sky, you two can't guard them forever. Yihua said solemnly. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads. Last night they found out that the children were looking forward to this mission very much, and it seemed like they had been thinking about it for a long time. You guys go ahead and cook. I won't disturb you. Yes. With a heavy heart, Yihua walked out of the kitchen. During lunchtime, Qin Yutong appeared on time, and as usual she played with the children. I hope that after I get a man I will be able to mature a bit. While eating, Xianxia said solemnly, Yutong, I have something to discuss with you today. When Qin Yutong saw the serious expression on her big sister's face, she knew what she was going to say, and her face immediately collapsed. It wasn't the first time that the children felt sorry for their aunts. They were going to be lectured by their mothers again. Regarding this kind of matter, Xianxia didn't plan to hide it from the children. Big sister, you don't have to worry about my matters, I know. Qin Yutong said helplessly. Be a bit more serious, sit up straight. Xianxia said gravely. Qin Yutong sighed and sat up straight. After going through our decision, your marriage has already been decided. Hearing what her big sister said, Qin Yutong had a stupefied look on her face as she cried out in surprise. Big sister, do you have to be so ruthless? I don't even know who the other party is and you already decided on it. What about human rights? Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. Your brother-in-law has already agreed to it. Yihua let out a breath. Yutong, we won't be able to have a clandestine love anymore in the future. After hearing what Yihua said, Qin Yutong was stupefied, then looked towards Yihua, seemingly asking, why did you agree to it? Didn't we agree to have a clandestine love forever? Brother-in-law, you are lying to Yutong. The little fellows went into a daze for a moment, then congratulated their aunt one after another. In actuality, the little fellows had long treated Qin Yutong as their family, and right now it was only justifiable. Xianxia smiled slightly and said, Yutong, in the future, you are also a wife, be more steady, don't be so fussy and throw your husband's face. Qin Yutong had a bitter look on her face, looking as if she was about to die. This matter is decided then, Yihua, I will have to trouble you tonight. Xianxia said. It was clear that she wanted to settle this matter as soon as possible. As long as they get on the bed, it would be considered as a success. Yihua, do you guys have to be so anxious? Is it really alright for you two to be like this? Qin Yutong was stupefied and she felt that her brain was a bit short-circuited. During the afternoon, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had specially decorated the bedroom. After that, Xianxia pushed the two newlyweds into the bedroom. Yihua, be gentler, Yutong has never experienced it before, understand? Before leaving the bedroom, Xianxia specially told Yihua to be gentle and not to use too much force. When Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji walked out of the bedroom, Yihua sat weakly on the chair and Qin Yutong was the same as well, she sat weakly at the side. Brother-in-law, do you still feel nervous and excited? Qin Yutong asked disappointedly because right now, there was no longer any nervousness and excitement in her heart. Oh. Yihua said faintly. Brother-in-law, you lied to me. Qin Yutong snorted. They used the children to threaten me, what else can I do? Yihua was also helpless. Qin Yutong lied on the table and said in a low voice, Brother-in-law. I feel that calling you brother-in-law is a bit exciting. Yihua felt for a bit, it is indeed a bit. Then how about I not change the way I address you in the future? Qin Yutong said happily. Sure. Yihua did not object, he just liked it when Qin Yutong called him brother-in-law, he was a bit excited. Qin Yutong came to Yihua's back, lightly hugged him, then said tenderly, Brother-in-law, big sister said just now, you have to treat me more gently, you can't use too much force. Yihua snorted coldly, then turned around and hugged her. Do you think that is possible? Haha, I like brother-in-law's rough appearance. Hurry up, I have already waited for a few years. Yihua laughed. He knew that it was not easy for Qin Yutong. Although she was lacking that excitement, at least she had a home to return to. This silly woman, she even cried. However, 1 minute later, Qin Yutong immediately let out a scream. Brother-in-law, it hurts, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yihua pressed onto Qin Yutong's sexy body. Yutong, in the past, you were the one who was shouting every day and now you are not going to do it anymore? Who knew that it would be so painful? Brother-in-law, let's change the mode, I will serve you. Shut up. Ah. Qin Yutong cried on the bed, but in the end her dream came true. Chapter 788. Qin Yutong almost forgot that there was still a mission. It seems like after completing the mission of pushing down brother-in-law, I can use whatever I want in the shop. Let's not talk about so many useless things first. Let me apply some ice on it, it will definitely swell up. Yutong. Yihua hugged onto Qin Yutong and said with a smile. I didn't expect Qin Yutong's taste to be so good. Brother-in-law, I can't take it anymore, you can go and look for my big sister or even big sister Baiji, please let me go. Yihua slowly lifted up Qin Yutong's chin. Yutong, I suddenly discovered that this is also quite good. What's so good about it? It hurts so much. However, Yihua flipped over and pressed down onto her, giving Qin Yutong a fright. Brother-in-law, don't, this is more or less enough. Hehe, you can ask your big sister, this bit of time is just my warm-up, I am only entering the main show now. Ah, big sister. You caused Yutong to die. Having changed to a new taste, this made Yihua feel extremely good. It is normal for it to last a bit longer, men all like new things. Therefore, Qin Yutong was unlucky, she couldn't even get down from the bed on the second day. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji knew that this would happen, wasn't I the same back then? However, looking at Qin Yutong's current state, it seems that she is even more miserable than me back then. Xianxia was finally at ease with her little sister's problem, and one of her worries was finally settled. However, in the entire northern Liang land, the news of yesterday's battle had already spread, and everyone knew about it overnight. Tianliang sect joined hands with Gouda Principality and gathered 300,000 people to attack Wuxia Empire. In the end, all 300,000 people were killed. Tianliang sect's elder Fong was even directly pinched to death. That scene made everyone's back turn cold. Because everyone knew of Fong Meiying's strength, to be able to pinch a rank 1 Do Huang to death. Just how strong must she be? Just what is this Wuxia Empire? Why have I never heard of it before? A lot of people came over with curiosity to take a look at the powerful Wuxia Empire. This also achieved Yihua's initial goal, and he could clearly feel that the number of people entering the city was increasing. As long as you live in my territory, you will never want to leave again. Within Tianliang sect's hall, Lan Gu was sitting at the top and there were 2 elders sitting beside him. However, there were 2 elders' seats that were empty, and those seats belonged to Fong Meiying and Ma Ji. Fong Meiying's body was placed in the middle, and everyone's expression was very heavy. Mu Ran knelt behind her master. The tall firmament red stood behind Mu Ran, giving off a sense of oppression. Out of the 200,000 disciples, only a few hundred returned. Elder Feng has fallen and Elder Ma's whereabouts are unknown. The one who spoke was one of the elders, Yu Wenba. This person was wearing a blue gown and he had jet black sideburns. A strand of black hair fell beside the corner of his eyes, giving people a kind of frivolous feeling. Yeah. This is the first time our Cold Sky sect has suffered such a heavy loss, Sect Master. Give the order. Qilu was another elder. He was dressed in a black robe and had a small beard on his chin. As the sovereign, Lan Gu's face was taut. 200,000 disciples were gone just like that. If word got out, Tianliang sect would lose all its face. Mu Ran. What exactly is going on with Voidless Empire? How strong were they? You've been captured by them for a period of time. It's impossible that you don't know anything. Lan Gu questioned in a deep voice. Sect Master, Mu Ran doesn't dare to lie to you. What Mu Ran said just now is the truth. Mu Ran had already told Lan Gu everything that he knew. Lan Gu questioned coldly, why did that emperor treat you well? And he even let you go easily. Mu Ran really doesn't know. Qilu asked, Mu Ran, since the other party is so strong, why did they value you, a heaven's law-doer, so much? Furthermore, that emperor treated you quite well. Yu Wenba also said faintly. The two's meaning was very clear. Mu Ran, you couldn't have defected to the enemy, right? After hearing that, Mu Ran hurriedly explained, Sect Master, why would Mu Ran betray Tianliang's sect? Mu Ran, but why did I hear that after hearing what you said, that snow corpse gave up on attacking? Lan Gu slightly squinted his eyes and let out a chilling aura. Mu Ran doesn't know. Qilu took a cold look at Mu Ran, then suddenly stood up and shouted, Mu Ran, you don't know the important things that I asked you. Do you still have Tianliang sect in your heart? Mu Ran stubbornly lowered his head and didn't say anything. After such a thing happened, why was everyone's spearhead pointed at him? At this moment, a disciple ran in from outside the door, reporting to Sect Master, Elder Ma is back. Elder Ma was still alive. Lan Gu and the others all stood up, and they saw Ma Ji being carried in by two disciples. Sect Master, you have to take revenge for us, those people are so vicious. Ma Ji laid on the wooden stretcher and shouted in pain. Lan Gu asked faintly, Elder Ma, tell me in detail. Sect Master, all of us went to save Mu Ran, but after Mu Ran was brought back by Elder Feng, she tried her best to put in a good word for Wushu Empire, and because of this, even Elder Feng got angry. I feel that Mu Ran has already defected to the enemy. Ma Ji directly pushed all the blame for the failure onto Mu Ran. After hearing that, Mu Ran's brain buzzed and he said in disbelief, Elder Ma, how could Mu Ran defected to the enemy? You are talking nonsense. Mu Ran, why did you go alone? Why did you go alone? And why did you go alone? But all of us got into trouble. Can you explain clearly? And who is the man behind you? Ma Ji questioned in a deep voice. Mu Ran didn't know how to explain and lowered his head without saying anything. However, this attitude seemed to be tacitly admitting the truth. Mu Ran, do you admit to your guilt? Lan Gu sternly shouted. A peak Do Huang aura was quietly emitted, causing people to be unable to breathe. And this aura directly pressed on the weak Mu Ran's body. Mu Ran really didn't betray Tianliang's sect. Mu Ran endured the pressure from the sect master and stubbornly held on. Yuan Gang coldly shouted, Mu Ran, although you are a heaven doge, but don't forget what Tianliang sect can give you. Tianliang sect can also take back. Sect master, please believe in Mu Ran. Mu Ran's current words appeared so weak and powerless and basically had no use. Such an explanation was just a cover-up when it landed in the ears of these people. Lan Gu said in a low voice, Mu Ran, this time around everyone went for you. However, you have to take responsibility for such an outcome. Sect Master, Mu Ran had already persuaded Elder Ma and Master back then. At that time Master and Elder Ma didn't listen. They wanted to snatch Wushu Empire. Mu Ran shouted loudly. Beads of sweat on his forehead flowed down along his face. Ma Ji shouted explosively after hearing that. Sect Master, how could our Tianliang sect do such a thing? Mu Ran, don't slander us. Elder Ma. Mu Ran looked at Ma Ji in disbelief. How could he say such a thing? Chapter 789. Looking at her master's corpse in front of her, Mu Ran was a bit flustered. In the past this place was my home, but now, this place is so unfamiliar to me, everyone is so unfamiliar to me. Mu Ran did not do it. Of course I won't admit it. At this moment, Mu Ran's eyes were filled with determination. What right do you have to push the blame onto me? Stubborn. Lan Gu snorted coldly and raised his index finger. A white-colored dookie that carried along with it the aura of death could be seen attacking towards the middle of Mu Ran's eyebrows. And Mu Ran seemed to have already expected the result of the attack, and she slowly closed her eyes. I'm still wrong. What that emperor said is right. After waiting for a long time, Mu Ran did not sense death. She slowly opened her eyes and saw a tall figure in front of her again. Mu Ran's eyes reddened instantly. This was the third time. Every time, Sky Red would stand in front of him and block the threat of death. Song Konghong's actions were undoubtedly shattering the defenses of Mu Ran's maiden heart. Every girl would have such a dream, where the man they loved would shield them from the wind and rain, and Mu Ran was no exception. Although Song Konghong was ugly, his heart was kinder than everyone else's. Song Konghong's tall figure stood in front of Mu Ran. The white battle energy had struck Song Konghong's abdomen. There wasn't even a piece of skin on his sturdy abs. Blue Valley and the other elders were dumbfounded. How was this possible? The sect master's cultivation technique was actually unable to harm him at all. Everyone's gaze became solemn. Who are you? Lan Gu did not dare to be careless. This person was able to receive his attack without the slightest injury, so his strength could be seen. It was extremely powerful. Song Konghong did not say anything, but Mu Ran, who was behind her, said, "He's my guard." Lan Gu suddenly laughed out loud, his voice filled with mockery. Mu Ran, you've got guts now. Lying was actually so easy. Looks like Heavenly Dao's strength has blinded your eyes. Mu Ran stood up slowly and looked at Lan Gu. Sect leader, Mu Ran is telling the truth. Then I'll kill you first, traitor. Lan Gu's figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Mu Ran. His fingers formed a claw as he grabbed at Mu Ran's neck. However, an even bigger hand suddenly appeared. He grabbed Blue Valley's wrist tightly. Lan Gu was shocked, Mu Ran even more so. He was actually able to grab onto sect leader's wrist. At this moment, Firmament Hong had no other choice but to unleash his full strength. Otherwise, Mu Ran would definitely die. Moreover, he had held it in for a long time. He had wanted to kill everyone in this room for a long time. A bunch of degenerates. Bullying a loyal girl. A long sword materialized in Blue Valley's left hand. It went straight for Blue Sky Red's heart. Ding. The sharp sword pierced Song Konghong's chest, but a strange sound rang out. Song Konghong's skin was like steel, and the tip of the sword couldn't penetrate it at all. Lan Gu was stupefied. Yu Wengang was also dumbfounded. Qilu was also stunned. Ma Ji felt that he was dreaming. Mu Ran's jaw dropped. How did Sky Red suddenly become so strong? Song Konghong grabbed Lan Gu's wrist and flung him away. Bang! There was a hole in the roof of the hall, and the sect leader of the Cold Sky sect was thrown out by Song Konghong. It was unknown if he would turn into a star. The entire hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop on the ground. Since the sect leader was thrown out, the three elders didn't dare to say a single word. Meanwhile, Song Konghong grabbed onto Mu Ran's hand, causing a blush to appear on Mu Ran's pale face. Let's go. A muffled voice came out from under the iron mask. Mu Ran looked at Song Konghong blankly, and discovered that she was a bit unable to understand Song Konghong. Isn't he a mute? Why is he able to speak now? Although Mu Ran was puzzled, she still followed Song Konghong and left. This Cold Sky sect has already changed. While Song Konghong took the opportunity when Mu Ran wasn't paying attention and shot out a strand of deviant fire from his fingertip, and noiselessly drilled into Ma Ji's body. This man should have died in Wushu Empire from the start. After Song Konghong left with Mu Ran, Ma Ji suddenly felt that his body was extremely irritable, as if there was a lump of fire burning him. All. Ma Ji immediately let out a scream. Under Ma Ji's skin was a patch of fiery red, and there seemed to be something burning under his skin. Yu Wengang and Qilu were both stupefied. In a blink of an eye, Ma Ji powerlessly laid down on the ground, and his entire body emitted out a charred smell. All that was left was a jet-black skin. Not long after, Lan Gu, who was thrown out, came back. His white hair was incomparably messy, as if he had just driven a convertible sports car back. Where is he? Lan Gu shouted angrily. He could no longer maintain his image as a sect master. He's already gone, Yu Wengang said, trembling with fear. The other party was too terrifying. Lan Gu heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Ma Ji. What's wrong with him? I don't know. He's like a fire just now. Qi Lu also lost his imposing manner and said in a low voice. Lan Gu said gravely, I didn't expect that. Mu Ran actually managed to find such a powerful bodyguard. I've underestimated her. Grandmaster, this guard is very strong. What should we do? Yu Wenba asked in a low voice. Humph. Since Mu Ran is heartless, don't blame me for being ruthless. Aren't her parents in Gouda Principality? Hearing the sect master's words, the two elders instantly understood. No one is allowed to say a word about what happened today. The Blue Valley had been humiliated so badly. They definitely did not want others to know about it. Their dignity was already on the ground. Yes. Everyone replied respectfully. However, right at this moment a voice suddenly rang out. Wuxia Empire invites you over. Tianliang sect master will arrive at Wuxia Empire in 5 days. If you don't come, the sect will be exterminated. The one who finished speaking was naturally Bai Gu. Passing on such words seemed to be a trick that Bai Gu was very good at. After finishing speaking, Bai Gu went to another place to pass on the message. However, before Lan Gu and the others could react, they even felt that what they heard just now was an auditory hallucination. Sect Master. I seem to have heard it just now. Yu Wengang mumbled, shock could be seen within his eyes. I heard it too. Qila said while trembling with fear. Lan Gu's expression was gloomy. This damned Wuxia Empire, they are simply trampling on Tianliang sect's dignity. On the other side, Bai Gu arrived at Gouda Principality. At this time the prince had yet to return, and King Feng Yongzhang was currently in his study room meditating with a grave expression on his face. Wuxia Empire invites you over. Gouda Principality's king must arrive at Gouda Principality in 5 days. If not, the country will be exterminated. Feng Yongzhang went into a daze as he looked at his surroundings. Could it be that I am having a misconception? However, those palace maids also revealed a perplexed expression. Did you all hear it just now? Feng Yongzhang asked gravely. The palace maids who were standing at the side hurriedly kneeled down. Chapter 790. How was this possible? Were the rumors true? White Bones went to the other 2 countries and said the same thing before leaving. As for whether they would come or not, it was up to them. If he came, there would still be a chance of survival. If he didn't, there would definitely be no chance. At this moment, Song Kong Hong and Mu Ran had already left Tianliang sect and were standing beside a clear river. Mu ran through the stone. Just like before, Song Kong Hong stood behind Mu Ran. You're lying to me. You know how to talk and you're very strong, Mu Ran said with her back facing Sky High Hong. Song Kong Hong's heart sank and she hurriedly explained, 1 minute later. No. Another minute passed. Yes, so, Mu Ran looked at Song Kong Hong in a daze, not interrupting him. After listening, she asked, is it difficult for you to speak? How long does it take to say another word? Yes. Song Kong Hong nodded. Mu Ran finally understood. This way of speaking was indeed no different from being mute. It was understandable. But you lied to me. You're clearly very powerful. Mu Ran seemed to be blaming Song Kong Hong, but her tone was like that of a little girl throwing a tantrum. Song Kong Hong didn't want Mu Ran to misunderstand and hurriedly said, Mu Ran quietly listened to Song Kong Hong's explanation. Although she spoke a little slowly, Mu Ran did not interrupt and appeared very serious. Song Kong Hong spent half an hour explaining his intentions. He had fallen off a cliff by chance and refined his strength, but he didn't dare to tell others about it. It had to be said that Song Kong Hong had learned how to lie. At the very least, he didn't stupidly say that he was the emperor's subordinate and that he was here to lie to him. From this incident, it could be seen that Song Kong Hong had developed some emotional intelligence. It seemed like she did not want to lose Mu Ran, even though she did not admit it. However, when Song Kong Hong looked at Mu Ran, who was quietly listening to what she was saying, she felt very strange in her heart and seemed to be moved. He was always a listener. In the past, when he spoke to Yu Hua would always interrupt him and guess what he meant. Whether it was Yu Hua or the flag master, they were all the same. Because they spoke too slowly, others did not have the patience to listen. However, Mu Ran, she didn't have a single trace of impatience on her face and seemed to be very serious. She was the first girl to listen to him seriously. Mu Ran suddenly took off her iron mask and looked at Song Kong Hong's strange face. She asked seriously, "Is what you said true?" "Yes." Song Kong Hong nodded. It seemed like she had really gotten smarter after the incident with Yu Hua. She knew how to lie to little girls. Mu Ran nodded and gently bit her lips. Then she suddenly kissed Song Kong Hong on the cheek and ran away with a red face. Song Kong Hong was stupefied. He had lived for more than 10,000 years, yet today he was forcefully kissed by a girl. Shouldn't he be angry? But why do I feel a little happy in my heart? What a strange feeling. Song Kong Hong was stunned for a long time. Then he put on his iron mask and slowly walked to Mu Ran's side. Right now Mu Ran's hands were tightly clasped together, feeling very shy and nervous. Just now I was too impulsive. I kissed him, how embarrassing. He wouldn't blame her for being frivolous, would he? Did he think that she was a casual girl? Song Kong Hong took in a deep breath as though she was making some great decision. She then reached out to hold that small hand once more and headed toward the direction of Voidless Empire. Meanwhile Mu Ran was being held by Song Kong Hong. Looking at that tall and big back view of Song Kong Hong, Mu Ran felt as if she was being surrounded by a strong sense of security, and it was very warm. The two of them were not in a hurry to return. Instead they strolled along the green mountains and clear waters as if they were on a date. If it was the Song Kong Hong of the past, he would have directly brought Mu Ran back to Voidless Empire. But now he actually knew how to go sightseeing. It seemed like she had been enlightened quite a bit. At the very least, the girl had expressed her feelings and Song Kong Hong had also expressed her attitude. Although he didn't say anything, silence spoke louder than words. And the main reason why Yi Hua invited these big shots of Northern Liang land over was to announce some things. For example, in the future, Wuxia Empire will have the final say in Northern Liang land. In the future, these three countries will become Wuxia Empire's subsidiary countries. And of course Tianliang sect. You can disagree, but as for what the consequences will be, you can imagine it even with your buttocks. This was a feast at Hongmen. Either they chose to submit or they chose to die. It was time for Liang Bei to submit. After all, the Northern Liang was a small place. However, for the past few nights, Qing Yutong had been rather tired. After all, the children were about to leave. Qing Ya and Dong Huang Baiji had given all of their time to the children. Thus, Qing Yutong had to take over the glorious and great mission. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong was complaining incessantly. In the past, I always wanted my brother-in-law to hug me, and now he did hug me. But how can he hug me from night to day? I can't even rest for a single moment. Thus, Qing Yutong, this new empress, chose to hide and seek. In the beginning, she would hide in the palace. She would either go to Zishan Palace or Yi Zizi's palace. In any case, she would go wherever she went. In the end, she would be found by Yi Hua and carried back. On this day, Qing Yutong learned from experience and directly ran out of the palace. Right now, Qing Yutong was walking on the streets of Voidless Empire. However, her walking posture was a bit strange, as if she was injured. Bastard brother-in-law, to actually use so much strength, it still hurts even now. Qing Yutong muttered a few times. I told him to rest, but he isn't even willing to rest. Tonight I won't go back no matter what. It had been a long time since Qing Yutong left the palace. She discovered that Voidless Empire had changed a lot. The population ratio had increased, and right now she could even see children playing on the streets. There were even couples and the likes. Suddenly, Qing Yutong felt that a big hand was hugging onto her waist. That big hand was simply too familiar. I was found again. Brother-in-law, just let me go for a night. Take pity on Yutong. Qing Yutong immediately hugged onto Yi Hua, then started acting pitiful. Yi Hua sneered, in the past, did you think that I wouldn't be able to find you just because you ran out of the palace? Brother-in-law sob. Qing Yutong acted coquettishly again. Let's go. Yi Hua said faintly. In any case, this is my own empire and I didn't even inspect it much. Qing Yutong was delighted. She hugged onto Yi Hua's arm and walked onto the streets. It seems like this is the first time I'm going on a date with brother-in-law, and it feels pretty good. Yutong, what do you think about this inn? Yi Hua looked towards a rather luxurious inn and said. Qing Yutong didn't react in time and said casually, it's pretty good. Let's go and get a room then. Qing Yutong, brother-in-law, we can talk about it, there is no need for us to be in a hurry. If you were to spoil Yutong, you wouldn't be able to use her in the future. Chapter 791. Qing Yutong said, I don't want to go in, brother-in-law is shameless, messing with me every day. Yihua turned his head around and said faintly, Yutong, if you want to find excitement outside, that's fine too, I can satisfy you. Then let's just get a room. Qing Yutong had a gloomy look on her face. So brother-in-law is actually so clingy. Although I am gloomy, I am still quite happy. However, after walking into the inn, it was actually full. Yihua walked out with a gloomy face. I don't believe that all the inns are full. In the end, after asking a few inns, all of them were full. In actuality, the number of people who knew Yihua the emperor was rather few. He often stayed in the palace and didn't come out much, so everyone thought that he was an ordinary person. Recently, there were quite a lot of people who entered the city and all of the inns were basically full. Qing Yutong looked at Yihua's gloomy face and immediately let out a sweet-sounding laughter. Brother-in-law, don't be like this, it's not like Yutong will run away, it's all yours. In the past, I wanted to increase the population, but now I suddenly want to decrease the population. Yihua said faintly. Qing Yutong was very happy in her heart because all of this is for me. I am so happy, although there is less excitement and nervousness, there is more of a taste of happiness. Brother-in-law, how about we? Qing Yutong blinked her beautiful eyes. Towards Qing Yutong's intentions, how could Yihua not understand? Qing Yutong could be seen pulling Yihua and running into a dark alley, then pushing Yihua onto the wall. She said, Little Gongzi, let's see where you can run to today. Oh, you are even putting on an act for me. In actuality, Yihua quite liked this kind of Qing Yutong. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji are a lot more well-behaved. What do you want? Yihua said coldly. I want. Qing Yutong directly pressed onto Yihua's body, then stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. Yihua did not hesitate and held onto Qing Yutong's but with both of his hands. These clothes are really hard to take off. Just as the fire was about to ignite, a ray of light suddenly appeared. Audacious madman, you actually dare to take liberties with an innocent woman in Wuxia Empire. Yihua and Qing Yutong, who were in the midst of kissing, could be seen getting a bit stupefied. Yihua and Qing Yutong, who were in the middle of kissing, were a bit stupefied. Qing Yutong immediately felt embarrassed and hid behind Yihua. This is so embarrassing, other people saw this. Luckily, I didn't fight with Yihua just now. It was better to have less passion in the wild in the future. Yihua looked towards Kai Yun and said gravely, Kai Yun, what are you doing instead of sleeping so late at night? With an exaggerated expression on his face, Kai Yun said, and everyone kneeled onto the ground. So it was my emperor, it was my subordinate's negligence. I didn't know that my emperor and empress were here. That. Qing Yutong felt that her face was about to bleed. This matter will definitely spread like wildfire within the team, and the fact that I in his honor did it in a dark alley, and big sister will also know about it. I'm finished. Get lost. My great mood has been disrupted by you. Yihua shouted out gravely. Just a moment ago I was in a passionate mood and right now I no longer have any mood at all. This subordinate will scram right away. My Majesty, this alley is not hygienic, there are many germs. Scram. Yihua shouted with a black face. This Kai Yun is definitely doing this on purpose. Kai Yun immediately brought along his men and left. His honor flew into a rage out of humiliation. After everyone left, Yihua said helplessly, Let's go, let's return to the palace. Brother-in-law, Yutong is definitely going to be made fun of. Qing Yutong said with a bitter face. If anyone dares to make fun of you, I will hang them up and beat them up. Brother-in-law, Yutong wants to lie in your embrace and sleep. Alright, I will spare you this once tonight. Moi, thank you, brother-in-law. Qing Yutong leaned onto Yihua's shoulder happily, and the two slowly walked towards the palace. However, after returning to the palace, Yihua's mood became much better. Therefore, the words that I said just now are all useless now. I should first settle my physiological needs, then go to sleep. Qing Yutong shouted out loud, Brother-in-law is a liar, I am lying to myself. However, it feels really good, just that the time taken is a bit longer. 5 days passed by very quickly, and Yihua received a report from Baigu. 1 sect and 3 countries are all on their way here. Hearing this result, Yihua was a bit disappointed. After all, if all 3 countries don't come, I would have a reason to attack. What a pity, those people are still rather smart, they know that they are coming. Reporting to your honor, Muron has returned to the palace. Baigu said respectfully. Right now, Yihua was currently reading Kangluo Continent's history book. In the past I have never read about it, but now that I am not busy, reading about it every day is rather interesting. Bring her over to see me. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. Not long later, Yi Hua heard the sound of footsteps. Long live your majesty. Yi Hua's back was facing Muran as he said faintly, Your majesty? Muran, don't you think that you should change it? Did you forget about what you promised me? Muran, who was kneeling on the ground, paused for a moment. I don't even know what the emperor saw in me. Long live my emperor. Long live my emperor. Long live my emperor. Muran shouted out sincerely. A trace of an evil smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. I, the supreme overlord, managed to turn a loyal Muran into my side with just a snap of my fingers, and she willingly joined my side. Seems like my ability to control people is becoming more and more awesome. Yi Hua placed down the book, then turned around and looked towards Muran. You can stand up. Thank you, my emperor. Muran stood up respectfully and sized up the emperor in front of him. Why is he so smart? If only my brain is half as good as his, that would be fine. How is it? I didn't lie to you, right? I didn't. Then do you think that I did something wrong? Yi Hua asked. Muran took a deep breath. From my emperor's perspective, I didn't do anything wrong and I even gave you a chance. Continue. However, my emperor's way of doing things will attract a lot of people's attention. After all, Northern Liang is just a small place. Hearing what Muran said, Yi Hua revealed out a smile, but very quickly he retracted his smile. Muran, you have overlooked an important problem. Muran doesn't understand. I want everyone to know that in Northern Liang, there is an existence that they cannot afford to offend. Yi Hua had changed his strategy. He didn't take the initiative to look for trouble with others, and instead he waited for others to come and look for trouble with him. After that, he would be able to openly exterminate those people. Muran thought for a moment. That's true. The emperor is so powerful, it seems like there is no need for me to fear anyone. That's right, accompany me for a meal tonight. Yi Hua said faintly. That would be Muran's honor. Go and rest then. Thank you, my emperor. What Muran didn't know was that Yi Hua was going to invite the three kingdoms to a banquet tonight. If others were to see Muran sitting at Yi Hua's side, those people's expressions would definitely be very interesting. The expression of those people should be very interesting. This was also the reason why Yi Hua wanted to call Mu Ran over. Right now, Wuliang's sect master had already arrived at the city gate. Beside him was Yu Wengang and Qi Lu. Looking at the imposing city gate, the three finally understood why Ma Ji and Fong Ming wanted to take down the city gate. The city gate was indeed very attractive. End of this chapter. Chapter 792. Sect Master, this Wuxia Empire is truly majestic. Just this city wall alone is even more majestic than Aluo River's three absolute palace. Yuwenba, who was at the side, couldn't help but exclaim. Qi Lu looked at the endless city walls and said, I'm afraid even the King Ren prison is comparable to the three absolute hall. Lan Gu lightly stroked his white beard, did not say anything and walked towards the city gate. When he saw the white-armored warrior at the city gate, he frowned slightly. There was no fluctuation of battle energy, just like an ordinary person. What did that mean? From what they said, these guards were all of the Daoist class. Filled with doubt, the three of them walked into Voidless Empire. This time the three of them had been very low-key. There was no suspicion of exaggeration. After all, Wuxia Empire's strength had yet to be fully displayed. However, from the looks of it now, it was already extremely powerful. It was an existence that could not be provoked. Not long after the Tianliang sect entered the city, the king of the Gouda Principality, Feng Yongzhang, also appeared with a gloomy expression. However, this kind of expression disappeared very quickly because he was shocked by the Voidless Empire in front of him, and he was unable to come back to his senses for a very long time. Compared to his Gouda Principality, his place was just a place where the natives lived. It was not worth mentioning at all. He didn't even feel like a king anymore, more like a village chief. He really didn't know how far behind he was without comparison. The Gouda Principality still had its grandeur. The long procession displayed the grandeur of an emperor. But in front of Voidless Empire, this was merely a joke. Feng Yongzhang also knew that he would be making a fool of himself if he came alone. It was not only Feng Yongzhang who was like this. The Xuanzhong Kingdom and the Great Earth Empire who came after him were the same. Such a procession walked into the city and was pointed at by the commoners. Some even covered their mouths and chuckled. You're all defeated people, yet you still have the nerve to act like this. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others? You're just lowering your own status. Looking at the Tianliang sect that just entered, they kept a low profile, always walking. The procession soon arrived in front of the palace. At this time the kings were about to come down. Beside the palace stood sect leader Lan Gu and the others. Why didn't they enter? It was because they wanted to wait for them to enter together. As the sect master of the heavenly cold sect, how could Lan Gu tolerate this temper? He absolutely could not tolerate this. So he just stood there silently, throwing a tantrum. The three emperors got off their carriages and saw Blue Valley's group. They didn't think much of it and hurried over to greet them. We pay our respects to sect leader Lan. The three kings respectfully greeted. Lan Gu replied with his eyes closed, appearing cold and arrogant. Among the three kings, other than Feng Yongzhang, Xuanzhong Kingdom's Song Feiyang had sent assassins to assassinate Mu Ran. The other thinner one was Guan Jiaxiang, the king of the Taitian Empire. He looked nervous. Seeing that Lan Gu was silent, Guan Jiaxiang cautiously asked, "Sect Master Lan, what happened this time? Are we considered to be sheep walking into a tiger's den today?" Song Feiyang also said worriedly, "That's right, Lord Lan. I heard that your 200,000 disciples were all killed. Patriarch Fong was crushed to death and Patriarch Ma is missing. What should we do? We can't fight back at all." Hearing Song Feiyang's words, Lan Gu's face darkened even more. He seemed to be reminding himself that 200,000 disciples and 2 elders had died. Feng Yongzhang said in a low voice, "What are you all worried about? Everything will be decided by Sect Master Lan." Song Feiyang and Guan Jiaxiang didn't say anything. They could only rely on the powerful Tianliang sect now. "Feng Yongzhang, have you done what I told you to do?" Lan Gu asked with murderous intent. "Sect Master Lan, Mu Ran's entire family has been beheaded. No one was spared," Feng Yongzhang said respectfully. Lan Gu nodded. "Very good. That bastard. How dare he betray the Tianliang sect?" "Yeah, I feel weird when Mu Ran said she came here alone," Feng Yongzhang also said, trying to curry favor with her. The heavy palace gate suddenly made a sound. This made them stand up straight and look at the gate that was slowly opening. Yi Hong appeared at the gate. She looked at them and said, "Follow me." Everyone took a deep breath. They didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse to enter this gate. It all depended on fate. Yi Hong led the way in front, followed by all the big shots of the Northern Liang sect. They walked up the long stairs and finally arrived at the main hall. "Everyone please." Yi Hong didn't plan to go in and smiled. Lan Gu and the others didn't have any doubts and walked into the main hall. Walking into the main hall, Lan Gu felt very warm. The floor beneath his feet seemed to be unusual, and the dragon pillar was emitting an astonishing aura. Sitting on the throne at the center is that Wuxia Empire's emperor. His appearance is indeed extraordinary and his appearance is astonishing. And the one who was sitting below, it's actually Mu Ran. When Lan Gu and the others saw Mu Ran, they were all stupefied. When Mu Ran saw the sect master and the others, he was also stupefied. "I didn't expect that other than me the emperor would treat someone else. This kind of meeting, it seems a bit awkward." Yi Hua, who was sitting on the throne, liked this scene very much, especially when he saw the look of disbelief on Lan Gu and the others' faces. In Lan Gu's heart, he never expected that Mu Ran would have really defected to the enemy. Looking at him now, he is actually eating with the emperor. When he thought about everything that happened, a terrifying thought emerged in Lan Gu's mind. Everything was arranged. Mu Ran's disappearance was a ploy to make me send troops over to save him and then snatch him away. In the eyes of others, I am no different from a bandit, but Wuxia Empire won a good reputation and defeated the strongest Tianliang sect. Damn it. I was actually tricked. Lan Gu wasn't the only one who thought this way. Even Feng Yongzhang had the same thought. It seemed like everything had been planned. What a vicious girl. My son still hasn't returned yet. All of this was arranged by Yi Hua. In the past, Mu Ran was still loyal, but you all made her bitterly disappointed and now she is following me. Suddenly, Feng Yongzhang's expression became extremely ugly, because he thought of something. I executed Mu Ran's family. If Mu Ran really defected to Wuxia Empire, then this matter would be huge. Everyone stood below without any etiquette. After all, they were sect masters or even kings. There was no reason for them to kneel and kowtow. Yi Hua looked at them indifferently, then said to Mu Ran, shouldn't you say something at a time like this? Mu Ran came back to her senses. Of course she understood what the emperor meant, but should she really say those words? After a while Mu Ran seemed to have made a decision. That hesitant expression of hers became much calmer and she shouted out, "Why are you still not bowing after seeing my emperor?" Yi Hua was very satisfied with Mu Ran's attitude. Chapter 793. X to the power of 8-1Z. Yan ad-free update fastest new August 1st Chinese Xiaoshuanet. As his subordinate, no matter how weak he was, he couldn't lose in terms of momentum. No matter how big the problem was, he would be there to shoulder it. Hearing Mu Ran's words, Lan Gu's expression turned extremely ugly. It was as if he had just eaten *t. In the past, this lass always had to kneel and worship him, but now she actually wanted him to kneel and worship someone else. What an ingrate. Feng Yongzhang, who was standing behind Lan Gu, felt the same way. This girl was very scheming. She had unknowingly latched onto such a thick thigh. Scheming ***. Guan Jiaxiang and Song Feiyong, who were standing at the side, did not say anything. However, as long as Lan Gu knelt, they would definitely have to. They had no other choice. It all depended on Blue Valley now. Seeing that no one responded, Mu Ran shouted again, "Greet the emperor. Kneel down and pay your respects." Lan Gu really wanted to strangle this brat to death. However, he didn't dare to do so. If he were to make a move, something might happen. He didn't want to bring about a calamity that could destroy his sect. But didn't kneeling mean that he had submitted? If word of this got out, where would his face go? Lan Gu took a deep breath, cupped his fists and shouted, "Cold Sky sect leader Lan Gu greets your majesty." The people standing at the back also shouted. This should be considered giving face to the other party. The other party wouldn't force them anymore. Mu Ran didn't know if the emperor accepted it, so she didn't say anything. Yi Hua placed down the chopsticks in his hand and asked faintly, "Is your hearing normal?" Everyone's heart sank. This emperor was really insatiable. Yet he was still unwilling to let it go. "Your Majesty, of course our hearing is normal," Lan Gu said in a deep voice. Yi Hua leaned on the dragon throne and said faintly, "Since it is normal, hurry up and pay your respects to the emperor. After that we can talk about other matters." "Your Majesty, isn't this inappropriate?" Lan Gu said in a low voice. There was a hint of anger in his tone. It had been a long time since Lan Gu had been humiliated like this. Inappropriate? Was the strength that this empress displayed not strong enough? If this is the case, you all can go home now and welcome my strength. I will not disappoint you all. Yi Hua's meaning was very clear. Today, if you all do not kneel, then you all are being disrespectful. If that's the case, I will have a reason to kill all of you one by one. So don't ever give me a reason to kill all of you. If not, all of you will die miserably. This isn't a joke, this is a serious warning. Hearing such a threat, the scene became quiet for a while and it seemed strange and oppressive. At this time, a terrifying panic spread in the hearts of the three kings, and their bodies trembled. Finally, Xuanzhong Kingdom's Song Feiyong couldn't suppress the fear in his heart and knelt down with a thud. Song Feiyong, who was wearing the emperor's gown, kneeled down. This scene caused even Mu Ran to be very surprised. However, Yi Hua didn't kneel down and continued to wait quietly. As Song Feiyong knelt, it seemed to have an effect. Guan Jiaxiang, who was next to him, could not help but kneel as well. The fear in his heart had reached its limit. Feng Yongzhang was the same. His legs were trembling and the fear in his heart was magnified infinitely. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and knelt down. Only the three from the Cold Sky sect did not kneel. The three kings are smart to choose a better future. "Master, if you don't want to kneel, then bring your people back to eat a hot meal and wait for death to come. Don't disturb the conversation between me and the three kings." Lan Gu turned around to look. The three kings were kneeling on the ground, trembling, while Yu Wengang and Qi Li stood silently behind him. Blue Valley's heart was in a fierce struggle. Should he believe the words of this emperor? If he turned around and left, he would really be able to destroy the sect. That would be the end of him. However, this emperor could also be scaring him. A person who could easily kill his elder, would such a person lie to him? And that confident look didn't seem to be an act. Blue Valley took a step back and slowly knelt down. When Yu Wengang and Qi Li saw their sect leader kneeling, they didn't think much and followed suit. Mu Ran couldn't believe what she was seeing. All the big shots of Northern Liang were kneeling. This can't be a dream, right? Yi Hua let out a light sigh, seemingly a bit disappointed. Seems like these people are all smart people. Lan Gu took the lead and shouted, "Your Majesty." Hurry, hurry, hurry. Your Majesty. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Yi Hua said faintly, get up, sit at the side and eat. Thank you, Your Majesty. After everyone sat down, Yi Hua said lightly, actually, I hope that all of you can have a bit of backbone. This was a sentence of mockery. Everyone's expression turned ugly. This way I will be able to kill all of you. Following Yi Hua's words, the few big shots' expression changed. They felt that it was fortunate that they kneeled just now. After all, life and death were decided by kneeling. Why would they not kneel and instead ask for death? Only an idiot would choose death. Lan Gu seemed to be a bit autistic. Meanwhile, Feng Yongzhang said respectfully, thank you, Your Majesty, for not killing us. Yi Hua didn't say anything after hearing it. He picked up his chopsticks and said, have a taste of these dishes. They are all top-quality dishes. They are definitely dishes that you all have never eaten before. Especially this crayfish, it is delicious. Remember to wear gloves before eating, there is a lot of oil in it. After hearing that, Song Feong really wore a disposable glove and tasted the crayfish. Soon after, Song Feong praised, My Majesty, it is so delicious. Ah, let's eat, let's talk while eating. Yi Hua said with a smile. Returning to this place was like returning home. Yi Hua was smiling a lot. Feng Yongzhang and Guan Jiaxiang didn't stand on ceremony and tasted the crayfish. As expected, it is delicious. Mu Ran is my subordinate now, and what you all were in the past, you all will still be what you all are in the future. Hearing what Yi Hua said, everyone paused for a moment. This seems to be good news. I thought that I am going to be the king by myself, but it turns out that nothing has changed. Soon after, Yi Hua continued, but in the future Mu Ran will be managing all of you. Her words are my words. If you all don't obey me, then change to someone else who is obedient. Do you all understand what I mean? Lan Gu's hands that were placed under the table were tightly clenched. Right now, I actually have to listen to a little girl. How can I tolerate this? I can't tolerate this. Let's eat a crayfish first to calm down. We will all listen to my emperor. The few big shots shouted out. Yi Hua nodded his head. Yi Hua's mood was pretty good. No one dared to anger me. At this moment, Mu Ran asked, are my parents doing well in Gouda Principality? Feng Yongzhang was immediately startled, and even Lan Gu's expression tensed up. If I had known that Mu Ran had surrendered to me, I definitely wouldn't have gone to kill Mu Ran's family. Feng Yongzhang knew that he wouldn't be able to hide the matter anymore. After eating the last crayfish, he hurriedly walked to the center of the table and kneeled down. Seeing Feng Yongzhang's action, Mu Ran's expression immediately became unsightly, and a feeling of fear spread within her mind. What happened? Yi Hua asked faintly. Feng Yongzhang hurriedly said, my emperor. Mu Ran's family has already been completely killed by me, but this was all under sect Master Lan's order. He said that Mu Ran betrayed the sect and thus he wanted to kill Mu Ran's family. I had no choice but to do so. Old Tai, set a small goal first. Chapter 794. Hearing Feng Yongzhang's words, Mu Ran's vision turned pitch black. She sat powerlessly on the ground and her beautiful eyes became misty. She clenched her fists tightly and glared at Lan Gu. After hearing that, Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows and asked, Blue Valley, is what Feng Yongzhang said true? Lan Gu slowly stood up, walked to the center and knelt down. My emperor, it was my order, but I thought that Mu Ran had betrayed me, so I gave the order. Yi Hua took a look at Mu Ran, who was at the side, then said, family members shouldn't be implicated. You all should be able to understand this logic, right? We know our wrongs. The two quickly admitted their wrongs. Yi Hua asked faintly, Mu Ran, what do you think we should do about this matter? After all, they are also considered to be your enemies. Mu Ran slowly closed her eyes. Her family appeared in her mind. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. When she opened them again, there was no pity in her eyes. Hearing Mu Ran's words, Yi Hua felt a bit gratified. If I were to let this matter go, then... Yi Hua nodded his head, seemingly approving of the proposal. Just when Feng Yongzhang, who was kneeling on the ground, wanted to plead for leniency, he felt a chill on his neck. Stretching out his hand to touch his neck, he saw that it was all blood. Then the entire head rolled down. Without the head, blood gushed out like a fountain. Everyone present was dumbfounded. They didn't even know who did it. However, Lan Gu, who was kneeling by the side, was the same. His body was covered in blood, but he had no idea who had killed Feng Yongzhang. A bad premonition erupted within Lan Gu's heart. He saw Lan Gu unleash all of his strength at the peak of the Do Huang class. Give me your life. Lan Gu knew that if the emperor did not die, he would die. He would rather cut off all means of retreat. Lan Gu's entire body transformed into a sharp golden sword. Instantly it shone brightly and a terrifying sword chi filled the palace. Seeing this scene, Song Feiyong sighed in his heart. Was this the peak of a Do Huang? So powerful. As expected of the sect master of the Tianliang sect. Awesome. As for Yu Wenba, his eyes were also filled with surprise. He did not expect the sovereign to have mastered the human sword transformation technique. Even a dozong would have to be careful of this move. A terrifying pressure was emitting out from the palace, and the huge pressure was heading towards Yihua. However, Yihua didn't put it in his eyes and continued to eat. This kind of pressure was no different from cotton. Roar, 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 roar. For dragon roars suddenly rang out, causing everyone's ears to ring. The divine dragons surrounding the red pillars suddenly appeared. The 4 mystical dragons opened their bloody mouths and bit down on the longsword in the air. The longsword was instantly torn apart, but the mystical dragons did not seem to mind at all. They swallowed it all and then continued to merge into the pillar as if it had never appeared. A few silver threads fell from the sky. The entire process didn't even take 10 seconds, but it was definitely memorable for a lifetime. 4 divine dragons appeared. Lan Gu, who was at the peak of the Do Huang class, was bitten into pieces. No. In that instant he already possessed the strength of a dozong. However, so what if he was a dozong? In the end, only a few strands of hair remained. No one dared to speak. They finally saw the emperor's strength. The divine dragon was just a decoration. Faster-C. How the F***ck could anyone live like this? Right now, the 2 elders of Tianliang sect were frightened. Just now, the sect leader tried to kill the emperor. Therefore, Yu Wengang and Qi Lu hurriedly knelt in the middle. Your Majesty, spare our lives. We don't know anything. Yihua ignored them and looked towards Mu Ran, who was grieving. Mu Ran, my condolences. Hearing the emperor's consolation, Mu Ran couldn't take it anymore. Her strong appearance collapsed and she cried bitterly on the table. After all, Mu Ran wasn't even 20 years old yet. How could she possibly endure such a blow? I lost my parents in an instant. Yihua sighed slightly. Luckily I don't have parents. After a long while, Mu Ran stabilized herself and said with a sobbing tone, Your Majesty, please allow Mu Ran to leave first. Alright, go back and rest for a while. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. Mu Ran knelt respectfully, then turned around and walked out of the palace hall. The main culprit had already been punished, so there wasn't much to say. Yihua looked at the 2 people who were kneeling and said faintly, What are the 2 of you called? Your Majesty. This lowly one is called Yu Wengang. Your Majesty. This lowly one is called Qi Lu. Yihua said faintly, Yu Wengang, in the future, you will be the sect leader of Tianliang sect, and Qi Lu, you will be the emperor of Guda Principality. Hearing that the emperor didn't pursue the matter, the 2 were elated. Thank you, Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. The 2 hurriedly thanked Yihua. This is truly a wise ruler, a great person. After that, nothing else happened. After the few of them finished eating, they left the palace and rested for the night in the tavern outside. Tomorrow they would return to their own territory. Yihua also went to find Qin Yutong to have some fun. Qin Yutong felt that she was going to be played by her brother-in-law. In Mu Ran's bedroom, Song Konghong stood at the entrance of the bedroom. Hearing Mu Ran's cries ringing out from inside, Song Konghong felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Should I go in and comfort Mu Ran? I heard that Mu Ran's parents were all killed. Although the enemy is already dead, Mu Ran's parents won't be able to come back to life. Just as Song Konghong was pondering, Tang Wei walked in. Tang Wei had also heard about this matter, so she specially came over to take a look at Mu Ran's situation. Looking at Song Konghong, who was standing foolishly outside of the bedroom, Tang Wei wished that she could knock on Song Konghong's head. What are you still standing outside for? Quickly go in and comfort Mu Ran. Tang Wei pulled Song Konghong to the side and said in a low voice. Song Konghong did not say anything. You've already missed out on Yuhua. Don't tell me you want to miss out on Mu Ran as well? Do you really want to see Mu Ran marry someone else? Tang Wei mercilessly attacked Song Konghong. Song Kong Hong clenched her fists tightly when she heard Tang Wei's words. Do I have to see Mu Ran get married? And then go through that pain again? Tang Wei looked at Firmament Red. She was exasperated that Firmament Red did not live up to her expectations. She snorted coldly and left first. She would come back to see Mu Ran tomorrow. Song Kong Hong stood where she was for a long time. She looked at the door, mustered her courage and walked up. Song Kong Hong gently pushed open the wooden door. She saw Mu Ran lying on the bed and crying. She felt terrible when she heard her crying. Song Kong Hong slowly walked forward and sat on the edge of the bed. Looking at that petite figure moving slightly, she reached out and patted it lightly. Mu Ran turned around to look at Blue Sky Hong. She pounced on her and cried even harder. Song Kong Hong heaved a sigh of relief. She gently hugged Mu Ran and stroked her back. The two of them didn't say anything. They seemed to understand each other. After a long time, Mu Ran got tired of crying and fell asleep within Song Kong Hong's embrace. Song Kong Hong lightly placed Mu Ran on the bed and covered her with the blanket. Afterward, she stood at the side and continued to protect Mu Ran. Meanwhile, Yi Hua was currently in the middle of a meeting. This was a family meeting that was held by Xianxia. There were a total of 4 people: Yi Hua and his 3 wives. The main topic of the meeting was regarding Yi Hua's domestic violence against Qin Yutong. Chapter 795. Yi Hua glared at Qin Yutong fiercely, seemingly asking, "What are you doing this time? You are clearly saying that you are having fun every day and now you are doing such a thing. I really want to ruthlessly slap you." Qin Yutong hid behind her big sister and stuck out her tongue. "You bully me every night, I will bully you tonight." Yi Hua knew about Qin Yutong's mischievousness, so he played along with her. "Yi Hua, don't bully Yutong all the time. Yutong is not a robot, she won't be able to withstand you doing that every night," Xianxia said helplessly. Her little sister had already complained to her a few times, but Xianxia felt that her little sister was just showing off, so don't blame big sister for tricking you. Donghuang Baiji also smiled. "Yi Hua, Yutong is still young and she had just experienced such a thing. Let her rest for a while." Qin Yutong hid behind her 2 big sisters and nodded her head. "What Donghuang Baiji said is right." Yi Hua suddenly laughed. "You two have also been through this together, so you two should know my habits. Furthermore, don't be tricked by Yutong, she always says that she is having fun every time." Yi Hua felt that it was funny when he thought about that scene. Qin Yutong's face turned red. "How is that possible, brother-in-law? Don't speak nonsense. Who is having fun? It is so painful." "Oh right, Yutong even asked whether big sister is having fun or she is having fun. Whether big sister Baiji is as strong as me. I didn't even say anything and she already started showing off, saying that I am the strongest, the most important." Xianxia, Donghuang Baiji, brother-in-law, don't speak nonsense. Big sister Baiji, don't believe him. I definitely didn't say such a thing. Qin Yutong hurriedly explained. "Brother-in-law is too bad. When did he say that? He was just vaguely saying it." Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji could be seen immediately grabbing onto Qin Yutong and pushing her into Yi Hua's embrace. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, "Yi Hua, make do with it first. And if you break it, we will exchange it for a new one." Xianxia said gravely. "This little fellow is quite showing off." Hearing this, Yi Hua immediately laughed. "Exchanging the old for a new one, this is not bad." Hearing this, Yi Hua immediately laughed. "Yi Hua, help me teach her a lesson. Let her know the consequences of showing off." Xianxia said tenderly. "Yi Hua, help me teach her a lesson. Let her know the consequences of showing off." "All right, leave it to me." After finished speaking, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji went to accompany the children. Seeing that the children were about to leave as a mother, Donghuang Baiji became even more sad. When the door was closed, Qin Yutong's expression instantly changed. "Brother-in-law, I know my mistake. Hee hee. Do you think that it will be fine just by admitting your mistake?" Yi Hua said coldly. "To actually dare to do this, you sure have guts." "Brother-in-law, sniff, 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 I beg for mercy." Qin Yutong rubbed against Yi Hua's chest with all her might, just like a little kitten. Yi Hua held on to Qin Yutong's exceptionally beautiful face and said lightly, "Yutong, tonight, let's change to another place. This can be considered as your punishment." "Change to another place?" Qin Yutong didn't react in time, but when she saw Yi Hua's evil smile, her entire person didn't feel good. No, don't." Qin Yutong hurriedly ran away, but Yi Hua directly carried her on his shoulder. Qin Yutong hurriedly begged for forgiveness. Brother-in-law, I really can't, I will die. How would we know if we don't try? Yi Hua laughed evilly. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji don't dare to try, but this Qing Yutong, her guts are too big, how can I not teach her a lesson? Brother-in-law, in the future I promise that I will be obedient and listen to everything you say, okay? Qing Yutong was about to cry. If I knew that it would be like this, I wouldn't have taken revenge on Yi Hua. Even if you shout till your throat breaks, no one will come and save you. Big sister. Big sister. Save me, your husband is going to kill your little sister. Qing Yutong shouted loudly for help. Yi Hua directly threw Qing Yutong onto the big bed, and Qing Yutong was just like a frightened little rabbit, hugging onto the quilt and hiding at a corner, with a look that said, "Do you want to come over or not?" Looking at Qing Yutong's appearance, Yi Hua's fighting spirit was aroused even more. The next day, Yi Hua walked out of the bedroom feeling refreshed, indicating that he had already completed Qingya's task, and that Qing Yutong would not be able to get off the bed for the next few days. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong, who was sleeping on the bed, had a gloomy look on her face. Brother-in-law is simply shameless, ouch, so painful. But it still feels rather good. The days passed by day after day. Looking at the streets that were getting more and more prosperous day by day, Yi Hua felt gratified in his heart. The population is finally increasing and the business development is also getting better. This is a good start. Even the housing prices have increased by tens of times. Yi Hua couldn't help but sigh with emotion. There are people who speculate in real estate everywhere. As for that sect in the 3 countries, everything was quiet. This northern Liang can be considered to be under my control, and I don't plan to bother about those small fries. The next task that I will be doing is to focus on the children. After all, the children were going to be going on a mission soon, and Yi Hua could tell that Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were very reluctant to part with the children. After sending the children off, Yi Hua decided to bring his 3 wives out to relax, and at the same time inspect Aluo River. Speaking of Aluo River, Yi Hua only saw it from a history book and it was just a map. Northern Liang was the northernmost place, and below northern Liang was Aluo River. It was unknown where Aluo River's water flowed to, but according to the rumors, Aluo River's water possessed a huge corrosive power, and a person who touches it would instantly be corroded. Therefore, Aluo River's water was also known as soul water, and no one dared to touch it. However, around Aluo River people worshipped the river god, and Aluo River was also a symbol of power. In the area around Aluo River there were a lot of powerful sects and countries. Compared to northern Liang, that place was just like a provincial city, and northern Liang was just like a small village. Among the sects, there were 2 that were the most powerful. One was 3 Absolute Palace and the other was Ren King Prison. Yi Hua had not seen how they looked like, but after sending the children off, I will bring my wives out to relax. Right now, Yi Hua was sitting in the children's palace and he was thinking about some problems. During these few days, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had been carrying the children, and they had been repeatedly reminding Yi Hua and showing all kinds of worries. Yi Hua, where do you want to send Yen and Lu to study? Xianxia asked curiously while carrying the children. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows then said gravely, in the south of Kangluo continent, there are 2 powerful sections. One is called Broken Vein Mountain, and the other is called Shin Academy. The Mountain Master and Dean are both overlords. These 2 sects are very strict when it comes to the selection of disciples. 3 days later, Broken Vein Mountain and Shin Academy will be recruiting disciples. After sending Yen and Lu to Broken Vein Mountain, we will have to go to Shin Academy. Time is a bit tight. The reason why Yi Hua arranged the children like this on one hand was to strengthen their relationship with each other, and on the other hand it was because Donghuang Li and Yi Yan are too good sometimes, and they don't have the heart to be decisive. Meanwhile, God Yi and Yi Lu weren't worried at all. Thus, the reason why Yi Hua separated God Yi and Yi Lu from each other was to let them repeatedly remind their big sister and big brother that it's okay to be kind, but being too kind would only bring harm to oneself. End of this chapter. Chapter 796. The 4 children were very excited when they heard about the place they were about to go. After all, there were warlike cells in their blood. When they thought about how they were about to leave the protection of their parents and be able to show off their skills, they were a little excited. Not only did Yi Hua want the children to learn, he also wanted the children to go to places where people's hearts were complicated. Putting it into practice was the best way to do it. Will it be dangerous? Xianxia asked gravely. Although Donghuang Baiji did not ask, her gaze was filled with worry. Don't worry, as long as they go in, their safety is guaranteed. After all, those two forces are in the south and they are the strongest in the Kangluo continent. No one dares to provoke them. Yi Hua's words gave the two wives a shot of confidence. As long as the child can be safe, everything will be fine. We will depart 3 days later. At that time Baiji and I will go and send Ali and God Yi off. Qingye, you and Yutong will go and send Yi Yan and Yi Lu off. Let's split up. If not, we won't be able to make it in time. After all, we only have 1 day. Yi Hua said faintly. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads and listened to their husbands' arrangements. During these 3 days, Yi Hua, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji accompanied the children to play. This time, when the children went out, they would no longer be able to accompany them in their so-called childhood. What was waiting for them was a life of study. It was a bright and sunny day and the blizzard had stopped. The 4 little fellows had already finished their preparations. They didn't bring any heavy baggage and they didn't bring anything. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, felt very reluctant in his heart, but he did not show it. However, the eyes of his 3 women were all swollen from crying, and even Qing Yutong was the same. After all, Qing Yutong had also watched the children grow up, and right now the children were about to leave just like that, and Qing Yutong was very reluctant to part with them. Although the 4 children were given birth by Qingye and Donghuang Baiji separately, in their eyes, there was no difference between them. All of them would call Donghuang Baiji and Donghuang Baiji. Just look at how Qingye is crying while hugging onto Donghuang Li. Donghuang Baiji hugged onto Yi Yan and cried loudly. Donghuang Baiji looked as if she was going to be separated by life and death. Yi Hua didn't really like this kind of scene. Thus he slowly walked to the side and looked far away. As a man, Yi Hua hid his weak side very well. After all, these were all his own flesh and blood, who wouldn't feel heartache for them. Making this kind of decision, I am also very sad, but I have no choice but to do it. Brother, Yi Lu called out softly. God Yi looked at his sister and smiled. What's wrong? Lu, The next time we meet we will be opponents. I hope big brother won't disappoint little sister. God Yi knew what Yi Lu meant. There would be a competition between Meridian Break Sect and Shen Institution, and it was a competition between the disciples with the most potential. God Yi and Yi Lu were very confident, so they would meet as opponents. However, by that time they should have already grown up. Luer, I won't go easy on you. God Yi chuckled. He was looking forward to competing with his sister. As for the others, forget it then. None of us are a match for him. All right, it's a deal. Yi Lu walked forward after saying that and hugged God Yi gently. The corner of God Ye's mouth curled up into a smile. He hugged his sister tightly and said slowly, I'm not by your side. Take good care of yourself. Yes, you too, brother, Yi Lu said in a low voice. The brother and sister had been together for 5 years. Although they weren't blood-related, they felt closer to each other than blood-related. Now that they were going to be separated, they were naturally reluctant. This is only the relationship between brother and sister. Donghuang Li was also hugging her little brother Yi Yan. Yan, in the future big sister won't be able to bring you along to act cool anymore. After I bring you along, you have to properly act cool by yourself, don't embarrass big sister. Donghuang Li said attentively. Yi Yan's nose was a bit sour. After I was born, I have been following my big sister around. Even my parents didn't spend as much time with my big sister, and now I am going to be separated. Daddy, Mommy, can Yan cry? Yi Yan asked weakly. Hearing that, Yi Hua let out a breath. I can. What? Yi Yan immediately started crying loudly in Donghuang Li's embrace. Even God Yi and Yi Lu were letting out soft sobbing sounds. Yi Hua's 3 wives were also sobbing silently. Only Yi Hua was quietly watching on, and his mood was a bit bad. Looking at the time, it's about time. All right, let's go our separate ways. Yi Hua walked forward and said gravely. Daddy, hug. The 4 children stretched out their hands and looked at their father with longing. Looking at his adorable children, no matter how strong Yi Hua was right now, his eyes couldn't help but become a bit moist. Slightly squatting down, Yi Hua carried the 4 children into his embrace and said attentively, Study properly. Daddy and Mommy are proud of you all. And Daddy, we understand. Yi Hua nodded his head and his gaze became firm once again. Qingye, Yutong, let's go our separate ways. Qingye nodded her head. The 4 children gradually separated from each other. The separation now was for the reunion in the future. Carrying reluctance, the 4 children disappeared from where they were standing. Broken Vein Sect was located at the south of Kangluo continent. Broken Vein Sect was formed by endless mountain ranges. However, there were faults in between the mountain ranges, which was why it was called Broken Vein Sect. In actuality, Broken Vein Sect was more like a big country. The area that it occupied was very big, and it was even bigger than the entire northern Liang. Broken Vein Sect was divided into 2 sections. The main sect was naturally the true Broken Vein Sect, and the secondary sect was naturally much worse than the main sect. However, the disciples of the secondary sect would still try their best to enter the main sect. Within these broken veins, every mountain range had its own name, and the mountain range that Yi Hua and Donghuang Baizhi came to was called Jade Vein. Jade Vein was below the secondary sect, and only disciples with extremely high talent could enter the secondary sect, and the secondary sect would then select disciples to enter the main sect. Yi Hua hoped that the children would be able to train themselves at the lowest level. At the foot of Jade Vein Mountain. Wow, there are so many people. Donghuang Li gradually got rid of the sadness of parting and looked at the things in front of her. The foot of Jade Vein Mountain wasn't as luxurious as she imagined it to be. It was just an ordinary small village. However, this small village was already packed with people. All of them had brought their children here because they heard of Jade Vein Mountain's fame. There were royalty and nobles, and there were also ordinary commoners. Meanwhile, those 4 and 5 years old children were all very confused and even a bit scared. How could they be as calm as Donghuang Li and God Yi? "Ollie, don't run around," Yi Hua shouted out. Oh, Yi Hua held onto Donghuang Baizhi's delicate hand, and Donghuang Baizhi held onto her son God Yi. Donghuang Li walked over and held onto her father's hand. "The next time I see my father, I will have already grown up. Thinking about it, I am really looking forward to it." The appearance of this family of 4 immediately attracted everyone's attention. Especially that woman. How can there be such a beautiful woman in this world? Perhaps it was because of the reluctance that Donghuang Baizhi revealed that made people feel even more heartbroken, as if they were suffering from domestic violence. Yi Hua first took the number plate, then followed the group up the mountain. From time to time, parents could be seen bringing their children down the mountain. Every single child would be crying for their parents. This time, Jade Vein's recruitment is different from before. What's going on? Why is it different? I heard that the combat disciple will personally test the recruitment. End of chapter.